Chapter 1236. Shinozaki Ichigo and Ishida Yulia felt a chill down their spine. Looking at Dustless's cold eyes, their hearts were about to jump out of their bodies. As the saying goes, killing someone is as easy as nodding your head to the ground. However, when it came to Dustless, this saying was obviously too weak. With just a thought, he could crush an entire world. With such unparalleled strength, no one could even muster up the will to resist. The worst thing was Dustless's exaggerated identity, the Spirit King. Killing him would cause the entire world to collapse. They couldn't kill him at all. Otherwise, they would be digging their own graves. Crack! Crack! Just then, the void exploded, and a few figures came out from it. Captain Jingle, Captain Soifan, and Dustless frowned as he looked at the figures that came out from the realm crossing gate. When he saw the two young girls, his interest was piqued. He smiled at Shinozaki Ichigo and teased, "They are your sisters, Shinozaki Shuri and Shinozaki Yuko. When I killed Shiba Ishin, I promised him that I would take care of his two daughters, don't even think about it. I will never hand my sisters over to you." Shinozaki Ichigo's tone was filled with madness. His entire body was emitting a frightening aura. That crazy gaze that seemed to want to drag everyone down with him was extremely intimidating. Even Unohana Retsu, who was swept by it, frowned slightly. "Captain Jingle, why aren't you bringing them over?" Dustless said lazily as he hooked his finger at Jingle Shunshui. However, Jingle Shunshui was indifferent. He looked at Dustless with a complicated gaze. He took a deep breath and said, "Without a doubt, since you are the Spirit King, you are the one I am absolutely loyal to. However, before that, I have a question to ask. Did you have anything to do with Fujitake's death?" After he finished speaking, Jingle Shunshui stared at Dustless. He was completely different from his usual carefree self. His eyes were sharp. As long as Dustless was lying, he would be able to tell. "It is indeed you." Jingle Shunshui felt as if he was struck by lightning. His body trembled violently. He was usually calm and composed, but now, he was panting heavily. At first, he felt that there was something wrong with Yukitake Jushiru's death. It happened so suddenly, and the deaths of several captains were too strange. However, because Wuchen was the head captain at that time, he couldn't investigate to the end. "So what? What are you going to do?" Wu Chen, who had completely shed all pretenses of cordiality, was too lazy to say more. He shook the sharp sword in his hand. His meaning was self-evident. "Do you still need to say it?" Hearing this, Shunsui immediately pulled out his Zanpakuto, and his spiritual pressure rolled as he said hoarsely, "The entire Soul Society knows about my relationship with Fujitake. Now that he has been killed by you, we will not rest until one of us is dead." Naturally, Puff S's, Shunshui felt SSS, he felt S's, and Felt's felt S to was to S, he felt SSS, his. Was S his S's heart's heart S, his. To kill S to die. S, his. Fight to the death. Sorry, you don't deserve it. Hado 54 Waste Flame. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. A round flame flew out like a flying saucer. Although it was only the 54th Hado, Jingle Shunshui, who was seriously injured by Dustless, had no extra strength to resist. Boom boom boom, the flame engulfed Jingle Shunshui, and the high temperature melted everything. When the flame dissipated, Jingle Shunshui was also destroyed. Seeing this scene, Kurosaki Ichigo and Ishida Yulong were both unwilling. The so-called captain-level Shinigami was just an ordinary human in front of them. Holy Destruction Arrow. In the distant sky, countless cold lights suddenly came, all of them were arrows. It was a unique attack of Quincy, but the one who attacked was not Ishida Yulong. Silver Will Reincarnation Explosion. A majestic sword blade storm emerged, instantly disintegrating the incoming arrows as if they were nothing. "You are finally here, there is Habak." His sight was fixed on the figure in a cloak in the distance. His eyes were like torches, and his deep and raging red eyes were majestic. "Of course." Habak smiled confidently and said calmly, "You can kill Yamamoto, but you can't do anything to me. Without enough confidence, I won't come out." A grin appeared on the corner of Habaka's mouth. He could feel the deadly pressure, but his expression did not change. His deep eyes were extremely gloomy and cold. "Bring him out for me. Let this new Spirit King take a look." Dustless didn't say anything. He knew Habaka's character. He would never do something he wasn't confident in. If he dared to come out and seek death, it meant that he had a life-saving trump card. Caw caw caw. Bursts of white light swept across the void and transformed into a door. Following that, two bound and suppressed figures stepped out from within. "You want to use them to threaten me? You are really despicable," Dustless said expressionlessly. There was no anger or sadness. His unchanging expression was very straightforward. The two people who were caught turned out to be Rukia and Nero. Habaka's heart couldn't help but tighten. Dustless's calmness was not right. This was one of the annoying methods he used to threaten Dustless. He didn't expect to be able to threaten Yin Zicheng, but he should at least show some worry. "Do you really think I dare to kill them?" Habaka's heart flashed with a ruthless light. He cast a strange look at the people who bound Rukia and Nero. It was obvious that he wanted to kill one of them first. Bang bang bang. A few clouds of bloody light suddenly exploded in the sky. Before they could kill Rukia and Nero, some of Habaka's subordinates inexplicably exploded and died. "You can kill them without doing anything," Habak said in shock. Jugram beside him was also confused. Dustless really didn't do anything. Two idiots. Dustless's heart was filled with disdain. He activated the shadow door of the Tomb of Reincarnation, border prison, and surrounded Habak and Jugram. Chapter 1237. Habak couldn't help but shrink his neck as he stared at Dustless's cold expression. His eyes couldn't help but look towards the horizon. He had a feeling that there was an invisible guillotine staring at him. Perhaps, as long as Dustless gave the order, he would be decapitated along with his corpse. "You are still too far away." After staring at Habak for a few seconds, Dustless said such a shocking sentence. "Is that so?" Suppressing the strange feeling in his heart, Habak put on a fake smile and said, "Then let me have a taste of the head captain's trust. I don't have time." Dustless didn't give Habak a chance. He planned to destroy him in the shortest time possible. Immediately, he used one of his strongest moves. His body was covered in emerald light as Dustless changed into another form. With a casual wave of his hand, a ray of light covered the sky. Golden Will Reincarnation Explosion. A huge light sword appeared in Dustless's hand and expanded without limit. 10 meters, 100 meters, 1,000 meters, 10,000 meters, 100,000 meters. Furthermore, it was still growing without end, with no end in sight. Poochie. Crack. Boom. 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 All kinds of destructive horns intertwined. Any living or non-living thing that came in contact with the light was crushed by the light. Poochie. Kurosaki Ichigo was split in half. Poochie. Ishida Yulong was the same. Another two Poochie, ear-piercing sounds rang out. Looking up, there were two more halves of corpses falling down. Looking down, it was Habak and his number one lackey, Jugram. Boom. 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 The light slanted down and landed on the ground, easily tearing it apart and splitting it into a huge canyon. At this moment, Dustless exclaimed. Looking at the horrifying Soul Society, he turned to Unohana Retsu and explained, "Sorry, I just swallowed a spirit king not long ago. My overall strength has increased. I didn't pay attention and cut Soul Society in half. If apologies are useful, everyone's dreams will come true." Unohana Retsu scolded in annoyance. She then smiled helplessly. Looking at the scarred Soul Society, her eyes couldn't help but dim. Hee. Seeing Unohua Lai's sadness, Dustless laughed in his heart. He had once told Unohua Lai that he would take her away, but she was unwilling to do so. Therefore, Dustless had no choice but to destroy the entire Soul Society. Of course, this was definitely not as simple as destroying Soul Society. Hueco Mundo and the modern world all had some kind of connection. The destruction of one side would inevitably lead to the collapse of the entire world. In other words, it was impossible for Unohua to continue living in Soul Society, or rather, in this world. "Aren't the two of you celebrating a little too early?" A hoarse and gloomy voice could be heard, followed by the appearance of Habak. "He didn't die. This must be his ability, omniscient and omnipotent," Dustless sighed in his heart. Looking at Habak, his eyes were filled with passion. The new double pupils in his eyes looked very disgusting and uncomfortable, but there was one thing that could not be denied: this ability was heaven-defying. He can see the future, and all known skills are useless against him. Maybe he used, omniscient and omnipotent, to see the future and understand my moves, so, Golden Will Reincarnation Explosion, is useless against him. Dustless pondered and understood that it was Habaka's ability. This world, there are so many invincible abilities. Dustless sighed from the bottom of his heart. Whether it was Hogyoku Aizen or Habak, they were all such people. Shinozaki Ichigo was also one of them. Almost all of them had an immortal body. You still want to heal. Ishida Yurong is already dead. Since you value your ties so much, you can die with him. Looking at Shinozaki Ichigo on the ground, Dustless's expression was cold. He gathered a majestic power in his palm, and with a wave of his hand, the void rapidly distorted. Caw caw caw. The sky cracked, and a black hole appeared. Dustless's palm released a majestic gravitational force and grabbed Shinozaki Ichigo's entire body. 10,000 Mammoth Heavens Pole. Dustless controlled Shinozaki Ichigo's body with both of his hands. He aimed at the black hole in the sky and threw Shinozaki Ichigo into it. To some people, drifting alone in the depths of the universe and living without a goal was worse than death. "Bastard, let go of me!" Shinozaki Ichigo, who had regained his senses, roared. His tone was filled with endless hatred. He locked his gaze on Shinozaki Yuko and Shinozaki Shaylee and said, "They are my only family left." "You can't," Dustless suddenly floated in front of Shinozaki Ichigo and showed an ambiguous smile. He looked very evil and promised, "Your sister, I'm here. Don't worry. I'm going to kill you." Hearing this, Shinozaki Ichigo was furious. He thought to himself that it was because of you that he was worried. You can live in your sister's shadow forever. Glancing at Shinozaki Ichigo, Dustless gathered a high-density light under his feet. Light speed kick. A merciless kick flew out and hit Shinozaki Ichigo, kicking him into the abyss of the universe. He would live on like an insignificant ant. "After dealing with you, it's time for me to move to another place." Dustless shifted his gaze and looked at Habak, who was struggling at death's door. Habak was his last enemy. After killing him, he would be able to leave with Unohana Retsu and step into a new world. There was no need to waste his time in a worthless world. He raised his finger gently, and a ray of golden light engulfed Habak. Chapter 1238. Habak wasn't Shinozaki Ichigo. Their strength was on a completely different level. After all, he was also a part of the Spirit King's body. His strength was worlds apart from Shinozaki Ichigo's. Don't compare me to Shinozaki Ichigo. I'm not an idiot like him, Habik said proudly. A cold light flashed in his dark red eyes, and a murderous glint flickered in them. Those overlapping eyes were extremely disgusting, but it was Habika's greatest trump card against Dustless. You're actually the same as him. There's no difference. No, you're not even comparable to Shinozaki Ichigo. Staring at Habik, Dustless shook his head and praised, Shinozaki Ichigo might be a simpleton, but at least he has the tenacity to fight and not give up. You, on the other hand, are just a clown hiding behind the scenes, a piece of trash who only dared to make a move today. This is called enduring humiliation for the greater good, Habik argued, his face red. However, Dustless ignored him. He stared at Jugram with a gloomy gaze. What are you trying to do? Seeing that there was something wrong with Dustless's eyes, Habik felt that something was wrong. Dustless's thirsty gaze was piercing his soul. Could it be that this guy wants to? Realizing that something was wrong, Habika's body turned cold. He suddenly guessed Dustless's terrifying intentions. Just as he was about to rush to Jugram's side, it was already too late. A red barrier rose from the ground, binding Habik within it. 6 Crimson Suns formation. Habik within the barrier was furious. He gathered all his strength and attacked the barrier. Boom! 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 He raised his sword high, and with a raise of his hand, he unleashed a near-invincible attack. A hole was cut in the sky, but it couldn't even shake the barrier that was as thin as a cicada's wing. Everything was in vain. Just watch quietly. You're next. There's a Habik. Dustless glanced at Habik coldly, then landed beside Jugram. The latter was expressionless, and he was very quiet. He was no different from a rock. Looks like you don't have any last words. Jugram remained silent, and Dustless didn't waste any words either. His body was like a hole, and countless drops of black liquid flowed out, flying towards Jugram in liquid form. Jugram's face darkened slightly, revealing a cautious look as he said, "This is the power of a spirit king. You actually know him." This time, it was Dustless's turn to be shocked. Stunned, he said, "You actually know that this is the power of a spirit king? Even a captain-level Grim Reaper might not know what this thing was." Now that Jugram knew its name and origin, it could only mean one thing. Looks like it's just as I guessed. You're also a part of the Spirit King's body. Oh, no, all of you are also a part of my power. Dustless smiled. This would explain why Jugram knew that this was the power of a Spirit King. Since you know that this is the power of the Spirit King, then quickly become a part of my power. Dustless's voice fell, and the pitch-black Spirit King on the ground suddenly increased in speed. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Naturally, Jugram would not wait for death. With a wave of his hand, he sent out several powerful slashes. However, the slash that gave him high hopes brought back great disappointment. The pitch-black Spirit King torrent was like rubber, extremely tough. Not only did the huge slash not tear apart the Spirit King torrent, it even bounced back Jugram's slash. Damn it! Even with Jugram's temperament, a sinister look flashed across his face as he hurriedly waved his blade again. Boom boom boom. With a swing of his hand, the slashes that were bounced back turned into ashes. They were completely destroyed by Jugram, causing a large amount of dust to fly up. Phew, that was a close call. Jugram heaved a sigh of relief. Spirit particles surged, and just as he was about to disperse the surrounding smoke and dust, the black light that filled the sky fell down. A close call. Are you an idiot? It's already game over. Without giving Jugram a chance to refute, the flames engulfed him. Heavenly reflection. Caught off guard, Jugram was engulfed by the black flames. His miserable cries pierced through the lazy white clouds in the sky and spread to every corner of Soul Society. If I say it's over, then it's over. Dustless chuckled and controlled the Spirit King to move towards Jugram. Very quickly, Jugram evaporated. His body seemed to have melted and turned into the same Spirit King's power. Gotcha! A gap appeared in the 6 Crimson Yang formation. Dustless stepped into it and stared at Jugram, who was in despair. His body felt light. Everything would end here. Chapter 1239. Habik felt a chill run down his spine. He originally thought that his immortal body was invincible. Who would have thought that he would encounter such a super cheating device that directly crushed Jugram without even having the slightest chance to retaliate? The confidence in his heart was easily shattered. Kill you and Jugra? How is that possible? I will never do such a stupid thing that will only cost me a lot. Dustless shook his head violently like a rattled drum and said, You and Jugram are nourishment for me to become stronger. Kill the 2 of you. How is that possible? Wouldn't it be better for you to completely fuse with me? A single sentence sent Habik to hell. His entire body instantly turned cold. No wonder Dustless didn't directly kill Jugram, but directly absorbed him. In a daze, Habik saw that the black pearl embedded in Dustless's chest was shining even brighter, and the power of the Spirit King was also becoming more abundant. I definitely can't let this go. Even if I die, I will drag this brat to hell with me. Habik roared hysterically. He hated Dustless to the bone. If it wasn't for Dustless, his painstakingly planned plan wouldn't have failed. If it wasn't for Dustless, he might be standing in Dustless's perspective, the perspective of a god, experiencing the power that could shatter the heavens and shatter the earth with a raise of his hand. Boom, boom, boom. The spiritual particles in Habika's body surged, and his body continued to expand. 1 meter, 10 meters, 20 meters. 100 meters. His body continued to expand until he completely became a giant that could hold up the sky. This ability to expand seems to be the ability of his personal guards. How did this old brat get it? Speaking of which, why did Habika's personal guards disappear? Strange. Or has this old brat already given all of his personal guards to? His gaze once again focused on Habika's huge body. Dustless suddenly realized that the spiritual particles in his body were unimaginably strong, and a certain thought in his mind was proven. This old brat must have personally killed his personal guards after reviving them, and seized all of their abilities. TSK, TSK. What a ruthless heart. But I still have to thank you, because your abilities will all be mine in the end. Dustless was overjoyed. He was determined to get Habik. This old fellow was a delicious cake. Inside the 6 Crimson Suns formation, Dustless's spiritual pressure increased. Boom, boom, boom. Whenever Habik moved, the earth would tremble and the mountains would shake. Mountains and rivers would shatter, and boundless tremors would spread out. Die, you insignificant worm. A Habik opened its mouth and said disdainfully. It raised its big foot and charged towards Dustless. Poochie. However, the tragic thing was that before his foot landed, Habik let out a cry of pain and was crushed by the oncoming saber light. His huge body was instantly reduced to ashes. As if it felt that it wasn't cruel enough, the chakra in Dustless's body began to go berserk. His eyes were focused on Habika's enormous body. After a while, the surging eye power began to twist, and the black flames instantly swallowed Habik. Tens Ho. Chapter 1240. Habik howled in pain as the flames gradually crushed his entire body, pulling every part of his body into the flames. His hysterical screams caused everyone to tremble, and they felt a stabbing pain in the depths of their souls. It was as if he regretted living in this world. His screams made everyone involuntarily sympathize with the great demon King Habak. It's wrong to go against me. Indifferently sweeping a glance at Habak, Dustless was expressionless. His entire being was as cold and desolate as ice. The Spirit King torrent that had stopped, once again transformed into a vast ocean and began to burst forth. The billows were turbulent, as if Habak had emerged from the vast ocean. Hateful. Seeing this, Habak quickly shrank his body, enduring the stinging pain all over his body, and left. For a cheater like Dustless, he had no intention to fight. Gulp. Just as he was about to muster all his strength to escape, the Spirit King torrent descended from the sky. In the blink of an eye, Habak was sucked into it. After powerlessly bubbling twice, he disappeared without a trace. It shouldn't be so easy to kill him. The Spirit King torrent occupied the whole world. Dustless looked down at the sky below, and after dozens of seconds, he didn't notice any intention of Habak to come out. The relaxed eyebrows suddenly froze. Dustless suddenly realized that some kind of mysterious creature was eating the Spirit King torrent, like a hungry baby, extremely greedy. There should be Habak here. The energy of the Spirit King torrent was extraordinary, and it was like a veil blocking Dustless's sight. Even with the eye power of Rinnegan and Tensigan, Dustless couldn't see what was going on, but he vaguely caught the bottom. A giant black shadow was floating around, constantly swallowing the Spirit King torrent with its ugly big mouth. It's strange, he can eat the Spirit King torrent. That's strange. The indifferent face showed interest, and Dustless was also quite curious for a while, staring at Habak. When his attention was focused on Habak again, he suddenly realized that he had disappeared, inexplicably disappeared. Ha ha ha. You want to kill me? It's not that simple. In the depths of the Spirit King torrent, Habak looked up at the sky, and noticed Dustless's puzzlement, and immediately showed an arrogant smile. However, Habak didn't feel proud for long. His body underwent a huge change, and the smile on the corner of his mouth stopped abruptly. He was surprised to find that the Spirit King torrent floating around, endlessly invading his body, as if his whole body was about to explode, and Habak was extremely uncomfortable for a while. Since you like the power of Spirit Kings so much, then I'll give it all to you. With a wave of his hand, the Spirit King torrent that had spread throughout the entire Soul Society began to churn again. It was as if it had been hit by a level 10 wind, setting off huge waves, black waves dozens of meters high. There was only one target to attack, Habak. Bang bang. Habak began to sway. The waves came one after another, continuous and unending. Under such a concentrated attack, it was difficult for him to even stabilize his body, not to mention counterattacking Dustless. Especially with the Spirit King's power that was constantly pouring into his body, he had almost reached a bottleneck. He was very close to exploding and dying. Caw caw caw. In the end, Habak was unable to withstand the powerful force and finally exploded. His entire body turned into a pool of blood and disappeared without a trace. You bastard, Habak roared with all his might, his tone filled with endless hatred. At the same time, the Spirit King torrent that occupied the ground had completely disappeared, as if it had never appeared. On the other hand, Habak only had his head left. Ah! I spared your life, yet you didn't even say a word of thanks. Instead, you're annoyed with me endlessly. You're really an animal. Dustless landed on the ground with a smile on his face. I spent a lot of effort to keep you alive. Do you have any last words? With Habak as corpse, all of the Spirit King torrent transformed into a part of Dustless's power and returned to the black energy ball embedded in his chest. Last words. My only last words are to hold on to you. Whoa whoa. Before Habak could finish his clamor, a huge foot descended from the sky, revealing Dustless. With that, the Spirit King torrent under Dustless's feet became agitated again. With Habak as head, It was like a black hole that attracted the Spirit King torrent, constantly eroding it until it turned into nothingness. Time flew by, and in a flash, a few days had passed. Dustless had also finished dealing with the matters of Soul Society, and it was time to leave. At this moment, in the system world, there were a few more female confidants. Uno Hanalei, Matsumoto Runju, Shumu Rukia, Nero, Hellable and the others were all present, Wuchen didn't care about their actions. Without any restrictions, they walked around casually. There was nothing wrong with getting to know other people. Linger, are you going to change to the next world? On the lush green grass, Dustless asked curiously with a piece of tender grass in his mouth. Yes. The girl nodded lightly, stroked the hair beside her ear, and smiled mysteriously. The power system might not be as good as yours, but you might find it interesting. I hope so. Dustless revealed an expectant smile. He rubbed his beautiful black hair, took a deep breath, and said, then let's start as soon as possible. Although you are very strong now, when you pass through the space tunnel, you still have to be careful. Linger kindly reminded. The universe was incomparably vast, and there were too many mysterious creatures. There was nothing wrong with being careful. Don't worry about this, I will definitely pay attention. Dustless gave her a don't worry look and patted his chest. Chapter 1241. Komodo Gakuen in the endless black abyss, there was only eternal darkness and dead silence. That bastard. Could it be that there was an accident during the crossing? In the dead dark space, a ripple was set off. Dustless looked around speechlessly. The haze coincided with the cemetery in the depths of the universe, oppressing the nerves of human beings. Caw caw caw. At this moment, a big hole suddenly appeared in the east, and a ray of light shot in. It contained a magical power and was very warm. It constantly tore the surrounding space, and the dark universe finally had some vitality. What is this thing? Looking at it, Dustless found that even with Rinnegan and Tensigan, he couldn't completely see through the white light. For a moment, he hesitated. Although he was confident in his strength, he was still too far away from the realm of sweeping the universe. That's the space tunnel, go quickly. At this moment, Linger's ethereal voice sounded in Dustless's mind, reminding him, I can't maintain it for long. This kind of thing is very wasteful of energy. Maybe something unexpected will happen. Thank you for your hard work. Dustless thanked her seriously, and immediately, thousands of photons rushed out of his body and drilled into the space tunnel in the form of light speed. Few thanks to Linger, otherwise, I will be alone in the endless universe in the future. In the stable space tunnel, Dustless's hanging heart calmed down, and he accelerated forward. Just when he was about to reach the exit, the stable space shook again. Oh no! Looking around, looking at the dense cracks, Dustless's heart was cold, and he accelerated. Even if he didn't die in the explosion of the space tunnel, there would definitely be a big problem at that time. Boom boom boom. What was supposed to happen couldn't be avoided. Just as they were about to escape, the space tunnel was engulfed by flames, producing violent energy fluctuations. Dustless retreated one step slower and was blasted out of the tunnel by the powerful energy waves. In a strange world, thousands of miles of dark clouds, the sun was clear, and the whole world was full of vitality. It was very different from the world Dustless lived in before. It was much more stable and harmonious. Boom! A swarthy young man fell from the sky and crashed into the shade of a tree. His face was pitch black, like a miner who had just come out of the ground. But even so, the young man's handsome facial features were hard to hide. His tall nose and chiseled face were especially attractive. Without a doubt, this person was Dustless. Just as he had expected, it would be very difficult for the spatial tunnel explosion to kill him. At most, it would bring him some trouble. Coincidentally, two young girls were passing by. Era. It's an unfamiliar face. Is he a new student? But what's with this getup? That doesn't seem to be the case. The black-haired girl with a ponytail lowered her head, exposing her perfect jade-like legs to the air. Her bright jade-like face stared fixedly at Dustless. Her bright eyes turned as she pondered over Dustless's origins. He doesn't look like a bad guy. Beside the black-haired girl, a melodious voice came. Her blood-red hair cascaded down like a waterfall, like the stars in the sky. Wherever the girl went, her eyes would follow. The two of them were the head of the supernatural department, Rias Gemengli, and her subordinate, Junai Himejima. Let's leave him in the academy for now. Looking at Dustless's face, after a moment of silence, Rias said decisively, prepare a set of school uniform for him and let him become a student of Kamigami Academy. Head, this seems to be against the rules. Leave everything to me. Without giving Junai Himejima a chance to refute, Rias's bell-like chuckle was intoxicating. Junai Himejima frowned and hesitated. Looking at Rias's face, she gritted her teeth and said, Head, although this young man doesn't look like a dangerous person, I still think it's necessary to keep an eye on him. It's too dangerous to leave him in Kamigami Academy. Isn't putting him in Kamigami Academy the best way to keep an eye on him? Even if he does something out of line, we'll be able to detect it immediately. Rias brushed her hair and put her hands on her hips as she said in an imposing manner. Send him to the Supernatural Research Lab for now. I'm sorry, Junai, you might have to work hard for a while. I'll leave this guy in your care, and I'll compensate you for your holidays. No problem, Head. Dustless struggled to open his eyes and vaguely heard the conversation between the two girls. The energy that he secretly gathered dissipated, and he didn't catch the hostility between the two, so he just let it be. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. In the dimly lit room, Dustless's closed eyes suddenly opened, revealing a deep gaze. Looking at the busy girl, he murmured, Miss Junai, is there anything to eat? Hearing this old voice, Junai Himejima, who was cleaning, was stunned. She was sure that she didn't know this unfamiliar voice, but it was unexpectedly friendly. She subconsciously looked in the direction of Dustless. You're finally awake. Seeing Dustless stand up and stretch, Junai Himejima let out a sigh of relief. For the past half a month, she had spent a lot of effort taking care of the unconscious Dustless. Suddenly, she realized something and asked, You called me Junai. That's strange, how do you know my name? I heard your conversation on the day I was unconscious. As for my name, please call me Dustless. Please take care of me in the future. Chapter 1242. Junai stared at Dustless curiously. To be honest, she was very curious about this unexpected guest. Dustless. What a strange name. Her jade-like fingers gently touched her chin. Junai's playful expression was rather adorable in Wu Chen's eyes. This name is indeed strange, but I don't think I need to pay attention to such a small matter. Dustless sat back on the sofa and started to examine the layout of the room. It was very elegant and had a retro feel to it. The bookshelves were filled with books and had a scholarly atmosphere. I'm sorry, I didn't think I would pay attention to such a small matter. Junai apologized sincerely. It was very rude to question someone's name and say it was strange. You said you were hungry just now, right? I'll get you something to eat. Dustless lowered his head and thought about his current situation. He frowned and laughed bitterly in his heart. Every time I come to a new world, I'll become a homeless person. Dustless was unfamiliar with this place and had nowhere to go. He could only stay here. And, what's with this outfit? How did I become a student again? Wuchen realized that the clothes he was wearing had changed into full King Academy's uniform. He shook his body and walked to the side of the mirror subconsciously. He walked left and right, swaying left and right. In the end, Wuchen didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He realized that the brand new uniform fit him perfectly. Alala, alala, it looks very fitting. It's beautiful. Zhu Nai smiled as she walked over with the pastries. Her eyes were filled with surprise. Dustless was still covered in dirt half a month ago. Now that he had changed into a new uniform and had a mature temperament, he gave people a feeling that his eyes were shining. He had a sharp eye that could compete with Kiba Yuto or even surpass him. It was as if he had seen through the past. It was not something that Kiba Yuto could compare with. Dustless nodded as he looked at the exquisite pastries. They looked good and probably tasted good. He walked over and was about to pick up a piece when Zhu Nai suddenly bent over and started to make tea. Tisk, tsk. Young ladies these days are all very promising. Because he was looking down from above, Zhu Nai's snow-white skin was exposed to Dustless's eyes. It was a feast for the eyes. Of course, after taking a peek, Dustless withdrew his gaze and didn't look further. Oh right, you're also a student of Chariot King Academy now. Sitting gracefully on the sofa, Zhu Nai said with a smile. She felt that Dustless was getting more and more pleasing to the eye. The only thing that she didn't dare to compliment was that Dustless looked rather thin and small. His strength shouldn't be that strong. Thank you. Dustless thanked him seriously. Then, an idea flashed through his mind, and he said, I wish to join the Supernatural Research Department. This, Himejima Jurai was stunned. Obviously, he hadn't recovered from his shock. He stuttered for a long time but didn't say anything. Sorry, that won't do. Zhu Nai's tone was apologetic, and his attitude was unusually firm. Why? Don't tell me you guys are discriminating against me. Dustless asked. He looked up and down and didn't feel like he had done anything wrong. That's not it, but our Supernatural Research Department isn't accepting people anymore. Zhu Nai rubbed her temples. She had a headache and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She couldn't just tell a human that all who joined were demons, and a human like him wasn't suitable. Bang bang bang. Right at this time, a violent exchange of punches and kicks attracted Dustless's attention. Walking to the side of the window and looking at the two figures fighting, a hint of surprise flashed across Dustless's eyes. Not bad. After a while, Dustless nodded. Indeed, Himejima Jurai agreed with a smile. Her beautiful eyes narrowed into a line. She looked very cunning. It's actually possible to join the Supernatural Research Department, but you have to defeat one of them. Zhu Nai purposely made things difficult for Dustless, wanting him to back off. Hearing that, Dustless had a strange expression. He blinked and asked with interest, Are you sure you won't regret it? Of course I'm sure. As long as you can defeat either Yudu or Kitten, I'll invite you to join the Supernatural Research Department. Half a month ago, another heavenly voice was heard. Riaz, who had just finished bathing, walked out of the bathroom. Her tall and slender figure was exposed. She was only wearing a simple bathrobe, and half of her breasts were exposed. When she walked, her breasts looked like they were going to fall out of their sockets. The girl's figure was perfect, as if it was deliberately sculpted by the heavens. Dustless couldn't find a single flaw, as if it was created by the heavens to discourage people. That confident and noble aura, as well as that perfect face, even a veteran like Dustless couldn't find fault with it. Tsk, Dustless smiled, and his calm eyes lit up. If that's the case, then let's begin. You're quite confident. Tilting her head, Riaz's interest was piqued. She looked at Himejima Jurai and said, Go and call them over. You can choose one of them. If you defeat either of them, I'll allow you to join the Supernatural Research Department. No need. Dustless shook his head. He didn't seem to understand, but he seemed to have given up in fear and lost interest. Are you planning to give up on this competition? Riaz let out a sigh of relief. She was quite troubled. Dustless was just a normal human, and if she accidentally injured him, it would be even more troublesome. Just as she was about to use her ability to erase Dustless's memory, she almost lost her balance due to the sudden sentence. Her eyes widened, and she looked at Dustless in shock. What I mean is, choosing one of them is too troublesome. Why don't we make it simple and let both of them come at me together? Chapter 1243. Riaz and Kimishima Jurai were both stunned when they heard this, and their minds were greatly shaken. Let me tell you, they are not playing a game. Riaz was speechless. She did not expect to save a teenager. She explained seriously, you can get hurt if you're not careful. I'm serious too. Wuchen replied with a chuckle. He also had a serious expression on his face. Not only that, he glanced at the two of them with a hint of disdain. He stared at Riaz without blinking, quietly waiting for her answer. This brat is actually so hateful. He actually dares to look down on my kin. Seeing this, Riaz gritted her teeth. She had checked Dustless's body. Although he had trained well, it was only limited to the human level. Kiba Yudo and Kitten were her kin, real demons. Minister, Jurai Himashima approached Riaz and said, young people nowadays are all like this. Why don't you agree with him? Let him see his strength clearly, and maybe he will back off. You want me to back off? Wuchen chuckled when he heard this, and he couldn't help but shake his head. No problem, I agree to your terms. Riaz finally accepted Dustless's terms. She treated it as bullying a kid. There was no one in the spacious training room, only a few people. Minister, we are all demons. It's not good to bully a human, the handsome blonde boy frowned and said with hesitation. It was rare for him to question Riaz's decision. I can't help it. He probably thinks that the Supernatural Research Lab is fun. Riaz smiled bitterly and looked at Dustless who was walking around like a curious baby. She said helplessly, whatever, Yudo and Kitten, please don't hurt him. Yes, Minister. Yes, Minister. Kitten and Kiba Yudo both agreed. Riaz was their minister after all. TSK. This world seems interesting. Magic. Interesting. Dustless walked around and touched his chin as he muttered to himself. Dustless is about to start. Kiba Yudo shouted. He didn't know that when he called Dustless a classmate, he felt very strange and awkward. Hearing this, Dustless nodded and walked over calmly under everyone's strange gazes. A mere human challenging a demon was definitely courting death. Be careful. Shiba Yudo reminded Seiji in a friendly manner. Even if Seiji was just putting on an act, he might still injure Seiji. No problem, I have thick skin. Dustless raised his hand and smiled. Then, he activated the ability of the glint fruit. A large number of photons floated out of his body, and he instantly disappeared. What's going on? Kiba Yudo, who did not react, exclaimed. Dustless was like a ghost, suddenly disappearing. Spatial magic. The naturally naive Kitten's expression also changed. She only saw Dustless's body flashing with a large amount of light, and then disappeared like light. Yudo, Kitten, behind you. Riaz and Junai shouted and clenched their fists at the same time. The two of them did not realize what had happened. Dustless inexplicably appeared behind them, and the two who sensed the danger instinctively warned him. This is considered a foul. Dustless looked at Riaz with a playful gaze and thought to himself. Is this guy a ghost? Why is there no movement at all? While Kiba Yuto and Kitten were in a daze, their fists had already smashed toward Seiji. Bang! Bang! Their fists smashed through Dustless's body, but he was not affected at all. The place where the fists penetrated was shining. He really is a ghost. Kiba Yuto and Kitten looked at each other. Dustless was no different from a ghost without a physical body. His body was hollow. It seems that I have to join this supernatural research lab. Dustless murmured, and at the same time, his body emitted a weak repulsive force. Shinra Tensei. Bang! Bang! The repulsive force came and went quickly. The two of them did not even have time to react before they were sent flying. However, Wuchen suppressed his strength to the minimum and did not hurt the two of them. Even if it was not for the sake of the monk, but for the sake of the Buddha, Rias and Himashima Junai still treated Wuchen quite well. Is this enough, Ms. Minister? Dustless turned his head and looked at Rias and Junai, who were in a daze, with a kind smile. After a while, Rias, who came back to her senses, blushed and looked at Dustless, not knowing what to do. She just said it for fun. She did not expect Dustless to really do it. It's not over yet. A black shadow dashed toward him. Ordinary people could barely capture his face. So slow. But in Dustless's eyes, it was extremely slow. It refreshed his understanding of the past. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The moment the blade came, Dustless raised his arm in boredom. Clang clang clang. An even more exaggerated scene immediately played out. Dustless effortlessly grabbed the sword in Kiba Yuto's hand as if he was grabbing a rough tree branch. Nothing happened at all. This is impossible. Kiba Yuto said in disbelief. His tone was sharp. He was very confident in his swordsmanship. Now that he was grabbed by someone with his bare hands, he was as shocked as if he had been struck by lightning. This guy called Dustless is definitely not ordinary. After carefully examining Dustless for a moment, Rias's eyes changed. A guess in her mind was proven, and she changed her mind. Let's stop here. I can agree to your conditions. From now on, you will be a... Chapter 1244. Dustless said softly. He did not expect Rias to agree so readily. What is this little girl planning? Dustless was curious. He felt that there was a conspiracy, but after thinking about it, he decided to let it go. Absolute power could crush everything. My name is Rias Gimli, and I am also the head of the Supernatural Research Lab. You will be one of our members in the future. Rias walked gracefully to Dustless. Her expression was friendly and her figure was graceful. Her every move was full of seductiveness. The young girl exuded a fresh and refined temperament. It was very ethereal, seductive but not seductive. Hearing this, Dustless nodded. Just as he opened his mouth to ask about something, Rias spoke first. There must be some unknown divine artifact in your body. Rias's words hit Dustless hard. He was a being that was no less than a god, why would he need something like a divine artifact? Shaking his head, Dustless pretended not to know anything and asked, divine artifact? That's a ghost. It's a long story. Let's talk in the room. Rias beckoned Dustless to come to her side. Her actions were much more intimate. Looks like no matter which world it is, power is indispensable, Dustless muttered to himself. Only with power would one be respected. This was the law of all dimensions. After about an hour, Rias told Dustless everything. It would have been better if she did not say anything. The more she talked, the more confused Dustless became. He had no interest in the fallen angels, demons, or whatever gods were involved in, including the so-called divine artifact. He came to this world just to relax. After going through 3 worlds, Naruto, One Piece, and Shinigami, one after another, Dustless was already exhausted. He needed to find a peaceful world to rest for a while. So, after a lot of preamble, Rias finally got to the point. You're just an ordinary human being, yet you possess such great power and incredible abilities. This indirectly means that you have some kind of powerful and unknown divine artifact in your body. Become my kin, Dustless. Your dependents. Why do I feel like I'm your slave? Dustless felt that it was ridiculous. He was a dignified figure comparable to a goddess, yet he had inexplicably become the slave of a young girl. Wasn't he an idiot? I'm sorry, but I really don't have any reason to convince myself to become your dependent, Dustless said bluntly. That's true, Rias's eyes dimmed. A person who had awakened a divine artifact to become her dependent was something Rias herself would not do. But, since I'm one of the students of the Supernatural Research Lab, if the head needs me, I won't refuse, Dustless said with a chuckle, his tone sincere. After all, Rias had helped Dustless once. If she had not taken in Dustless, he might have been thrown out while he was unconscious. Dustless also had a big problem that he needed her help with. Then, Miss Head, my place. At this point, Dustless blushed. It was his first time here, and he did not even have a place to stay. Allah Allah Allah. Stay at my place. A gentle voice came. It was quite unexpected. Looking closely, it was Jurai Himejima. Thank you. Dustless nodded and glanced at Jurai from the corner of his eyes. During the half a month of coma, Jurai had taken care of him. Jurai was kind and a good person. You're welcome. Jurai Himejima's eyes narrowed into crescents. His gentle face made people let down their guard, but Dustless caught a different meaning from his expression. This is a covert surveillance, right? It's not boring enough. Go ahead and have fun. Wuchen shook his head secretly. He came to this world just to relax and live an ordinary life. He had had enough of the scheming and intrigue and the cruel war of life and death in the past. Oh right, you and I are both in the 3rd grade. We're even in the same class, and we're even desk mates. Rias chuckled. The smile in her eyes was seductive. This is also a covert surveillance, right? Do young girls nowadays like to scheme so much? If that's the case, I might as well play with you. It'll be a way to relax. Dustless was relieved. His pale face was adorned with a gentle smile. Thank you, Miss Head. Since we're all under the same roof, you can call me Rias like the others. Is that so? Then I won't stand on ceremony, Rias. School only ended when it was close to noon. Dustless and Jurai Himejima went home side by side. When he stepped out of the Colt King Academy, Dustless attracted a lot of attention. Allah Allah Allah. You seem to be very popular, much more popular than you do. Hearing that, Dustless acted calmly and said softly, I'm used to it. No matter where I go, I'm always like this. Jurai Himejima was speechless. She did not expect Dustless to be so thick-skinned. It was just a compliment, but this guy accepted it shamelessly. Let's go. Ignoring the gazes around him, Dustless left with an unnatural expression. What he said before was the truth. No matter which world it was, he would always be the center of attention. Damn handsome guy, he just came and he already got Jurai Himejima. Even though they were 100 meters away, Dustless could still hear the complaints from afar. Looking over, it was the world's most famous scumbag trio. Hirudo Issei, who was called Brother Ching, and his 2 best friends. Chapter 1245. As if noticing Dustless's attention, the 3 of them hurriedly changed their faces into good-natured expressions, looking very sunny. That stiff expression looked quite funny, causing their cheeks to flush red, making people unable to restrain their laughter. The trio of amusing trio. After sighing, Dustless shook his head and followed Junai. As for Hyoto Issei and his good friend, Dustless directly ignored them. They were just insignificant pawns. Seeing Dustless's attention on Hyoto Issei, Junai quickly changed the topic and said, "No need to care about him, he is just, that guy is very different." Dustless didn't give Junai a chance to speak and abruptly interrupted her. "What do you mean?" Junai asked with an unnatural expression. "Nothing, I just think he is fun." Dustless helplessly touched his nose and smiled awkwardly. "Who are you trying to fool?" Junai curled her lips. She naturally knew that Dustless was bullshitting. After taking a deep look at Hyoto Issei, she looked away and pointed at the large supermarket in front of them and said, "I will help you buy some daily necessities later. Don't wander around, I won't be responsible if you lose them." Dustless didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Junai's words sounded like she was talking to a 3-year-old child. "Don't worry, I will wait for you at the door. Be good, people like you." Junai nodded and walked away happily. Really, looking at the gradually disappearing figure, Dustless sighed. He walked alone on the bridge not far away and looked down at the gurgling water below. The sparkling water reflected Dustless's silhouette. "Although it is a bit boring, this kind of life is quite suitable for me." With a peaceful smile on his face, Wuchen moved his stiff body. A series of crackling sounds were heard, which was crisp and pleasant to the ear. "Is it really this guy? He looks so innocent." In the dense forest on the bridge, a beautiful girl was hiding. Her eyes flickered with a hidden light. After hesitating for a while, she tidied up her appearance and finally ran over. Are you Dustless?" The young girl was wearing a short skirt that exposed her white jade-like legs. Her appearance was rather cute. "You know me." Dustless was stunned. He was in a daze. His expression was rather surprised. He laughed in his heart and said proudly, "Sure enough, being handsome is good. Someone took the initiative to seduce me." However, the girl's next words caused Dustless to vomit blood. "Then, my name is Amano Shima, please date me." Hearing that, Dustless's mouth twitched violently. His heart was in a haze. He naturally knew who Amano Shima was. This guy was looking for a sucker. "Sorry, I already have a girlfriend." Dustless's attitude was firm. He said bluntly, attacking Amano Shima mercilessly. He pointed at the direction of the supermarket and said, "My partner is Junai. We are engaged." Engaged. The girl, Amano Shima, was petrified for a few seconds. She was extremely disappointed. TSK. "Chick, you want to fight with me? Grandpa is going to kill you today." Dustless laughed sinisterly in his heart. With a teasing expression on his face, he walked around Amano Shima and teased, "Seeing that you are not bad, if you are willing to do a few things for me, I don't mind cheating on you. I will reluctantly step on your pirate ship." Hearing that, Amano Shima's heart was screaming crazily. She was shocked and angry. She didn't expect Dustless to be so shameless. Especially when he said the words, reluctantly, she almost went berserk. That aggrieved expression was as if Dustless was the one who suffered a great loss. It made Amano Shima furious. It wasn't that she was narrow-minded. It was just that Dustless's words were too infuriating. His expression was as if he had suffered a great humiliation. Amano Shima almost couldn't hold back the anger in her heart. However, she immediately remembered the order from the higher-ups. Amano Shima could only hold back the anger in her heart. She pretended to be excited and said, "Tell me, I will do my best." Although she looked like that on the surface, she was extremely sullen in her heart. TSK. What are the fallen thinking about? Do they also think that I have some **T divine equipment? How childish is this world? Perhaps when I passed through the space tunnel, there was a huge explosion that attracted their attention. That's why they suspect that I have some divine equipment. That's probably why Leith took me in. Dustless saw the change in Amano-shima's expression and remembered it in his heart. But since you have chosen to continue playing, then I will play with you until you break down. Dustless sneered. A devilish smile flashed by the corner of his mouth. He walked to Amano-shima's side with a teasing smile and said, "You can be my girlfriend, but there is a condition. First, you must fulfill the responsibility of a girlfriend." Hearing that, Amano-shima's mouth twitched. Looking at Dustless's despicable smile, she wanted to slap him to death. Just when she was about to refute, Dustless sealed her excuse with a sentence. "I have already tried it with Shu Nai. She is very obedient. If you don't even listen to me, then I'm sorry, but I don't think we will be suitable." After saying that, Dustless turned around and left. He was not afraid that Amano-shima would not agree, but he purposely slowed down his pace. This fellow can't be doing it on purpose, right? Amano-shima's face darkened. Her beautiful face was already twisted. After thinking for a while, she finally gritted her teeth and followed Dustless's footsteps. That, no matter what it is, I can promise you. If Miss Shu Nai can do it, then I can do it too. I might even be better than her. Hearing this, the mischievous smile on Wu Chen's face became even more pronounced. Chapter 1246. Hearing this, Dustless laughed even harder. He waited for so long just to hear what Amano-shima said. It would be a pity if he didn't eat the meat that was sent to his mouth. Rubbing his chin, Dustless walked around Amano-shima and said, "First, my shoulders are a bit sore. You have to give me a massage." Amano-shima's eyes twitched a few times. She continued to force a smile and said, "This doesn't seem to be the right place. After all, we are in public. You can't just stand there and let me massage your waist and legs, right? So what if I'm standing? Can't I?" Dustless did not answer and asked back. Amano-shima was speechless. Although most of the massages were done by lying down, no one said that one could not stand. All right then. Amano-shima was helpless. She could only admit defeat. Her delicate hands went to Dustless's left and right shoulders to check. "And, although it's a bit rough, your technique is not bad." Dustless felt it for a while. His eyes flashed. Not bad. Some people were born to wait on others. Some special skills could be compared to professional masters without any training. "Humph, kid, you better have some value. If not, I will make you regret living in this world." Amano-shima was furious. She was so angry that she clenched her teeth. However, she could only watch helplessly. Currently, she could only listen to Dustless. "How is it? How do you feel?" Amano-shima said in a coquettish voice. She sounded cute, and her words revealed a touch of charm. She was a real vixen. If Dustless did not have the experience of a few worlds, he might have been tricked by Amano-shima. Not bad. Dustless was enjoying it. However, what he said was the complete opposite. "You, forget it." Amano-shima suppressed the anger in her heart. She had no choice but to slow down her strength. "The rhythm is slow again, then I will speed up a bit." "Why are you so clumsy?" "My cute Shu Nai is very good at this." "Then I'll slow it down a bit. My leg hurts. I must have sprained my ankle when I fell." "Shima, help me massage it." "You want me to massage your feet?" "Yeah, that's the prerequisite to becoming my girlfriend." For more than 10 minutes, Dustless used all kinds of reasons to make things difficult for the girl. Fortunately, she had a good temper and endured some unreasonable conditions. TSK, compared to my girlfriend, you are more suitable to be my maid. After a while, Wu Chen's words made Amano-shima choke with anger. She suppressed her anger and said coquettishly, Chin Jun, are you despising me? Wu Chen was speechless. Don't call me that. Glancing at Amano-shima, Dustless's tone suddenly became cold. The only person who would call him that was Uno Hanaretsu. Those were beautiful memories, and Dustless didn't want anyone to destroy them. I understand. Amano-shima's mouth was trembling unnaturally as she said meekly. However, her heart was in turmoil. She could smell the supreme aura from Dustless's tone. At that moment, it was as if a god was right in front of her and he could easily crush her. I. Hurry up and massage my arm. We will do something interesting later. Dustless's eyes were shining as he said. Just now, it was really an illusion. How can this guy be a god? Amano-shima mocked in her heart and scolded herself for being ignorant. She didn't expect that she would still have such an illusion. She opened her mouth and was about to say something. Suddenly, her lips felt cold and hot. To be more specific, it was the feeling of ice and fire fusing together. You bastard, Amano-shima was petrified. Just now when she was in a daze, Wu Chen snatched away her first kiss at an ungodly speed. What are you looking at? This is a compulsory course for you to be my girlfriend. Wu Chen laughed incomparably in his heart. That warm and cool touch just now, this time, Wu Chen felt that he had earned a lot in his heart. From Amano-shima's jerky movements and the blue veins that suddenly appeared on her forehead, Wu Chen knew that she was still a fledgling. You still want to scheme against me? I will make fun of you today. Dustless thought coldly. He turned his gaze and stared at Amano-shima's shaking meatball. His eyes were filled with cunning. Gulp. Amano-shima choked and subconsciously stepped back. She was really scared of Dustless. This guy looked like a gentleman with delicate features. However, he was actually a despicable and shameless person. Ma-chan-shi, don't you want to be my girlfriend? These are all compulsory courses. Wu Chen said unhappily with a straight face, making a very dissatisfied expression. It's too early. We are still young. Amano-shima found a lame excuse. Even she felt that it was a fantasy. So what? If we are honest with each other now, it will help us in the future. Hee. Dustless slowly approached Amano-shima and revealed a scary smile. Amano-shima had goosebumps all over her body. It seems like they are coming out. At this moment, Dustless suddenly said. When she looked over, it was Himejima Jurai who was holding a few bags of daily necessities. Seems like Ms. Shima is still not ready. Forget it. See you next time. After saying that, Dustless turned into a gust of wind and ran away. Amano-shima was left in a daze. What is this? Amano-shima was stunned. She touched her lips and felt that her lungs were about to explode. Today, Dustless used her as a maid and ordered her around for a while. After that, her first kiss was taken away from her. What made her furious was that she did not even get a single strand of hair. Chapter 1247. Amano-shima was so angry that she stomped her feet. She was here to be Dustless's girlfriend. Who would have thought that she would be played like this? Her bones were cracking. Hee. She will probably come to me again in the future. Dustless muttered to himself. After suffering such a huge loss, Amano-shima would definitely think of a way to make up for it. Allah. Classmate Wu Chen is indeed very popular. It hasn't been long and someone is already trying to hit on her. Zhu Nai's beautiful eyes flashed with surprise as she looked at Amano Shima's disappearing figure. Hearing this, Dustless smiled and said softly, "Hitting on me?" "No, she's just lost in life, and I'm just giving her directions." "You can't even lie to a 3-year-old kid." Zhu Nai shook her chin and didn't ask further. After all, this was Dustless's private matter. "You bought so many things." Looking at the bags that Zhu Nai was carrying, Dustless frowned. Then, he took the initiative to help her carry a few bags like a gentleman. "Don't take them." Seeing this, Zhu Nai immediately panicked. Unfortunately, it was too late. The bags were already taken away by Dustless. "It's not a bag of money. Do you have to be so excited?" "This," Dustless muttered to himself. He subconsciously looked at the plastic bag from the corner of his eyes and vaguely saw purple clothes. "So it's underwear, and it's purple." Seeing this, Dustless was enlightened. He quietly looked away and pretended that nothing had happened. Zhu Nai also took the opportunity to take the plastic bag. She said unhappily, "Take this." Then, Zhu Nai threw the plastic bag that was filled with all kinds of daily necessities to Dustless. There were all kinds of daily necessities, such as toothbrushes and towels. This guy did it on purpose. Zhu Nai's face was red. She suddenly bought underwear because she liked it. She thought that it would be fine even if she didn't deliberately package it. Who knew that Dustless would take it away? "Hurry up and go home." Creak. The sliding door was gently pushed open, and a warm and beautiful light suddenly shone into the dark room. Dustless followed Zhu Nai into the house. Because she was a witch, the decorations in the house were relatively simple. Even so, it was still very exquisite. Dustless behaved quite casually. After walking around twice, he casually found a seat and sat down. "After wandering around for a whole day, I'm really tired," Dustless said tiredly as he stretched his back. "Very tired. If I hadn't come out in advance, you two would have been chatting happily. I feel like I've ruined your good time." Hearing this, Zhu Nai rolled his eyes and pointed to the end of the corridor. "The bathroom is there." Dustless didn't say anything. He stood up and walked over. About an hour later, Dustless came out of the bathroom, wearing a simple bathrobe. "I've just tidied up your room. It's upstairs." Zhu Nai pointed at the stairs. Fearing that Dustless had a bad sense of direction, Zhu Nai walked up in advance to lead the way. Dustless followed closely behind. "Seems like it's been a while." When he walked, the old wooden stairs would creak and creak. It sounded very unstable. Caw caw caw. At this moment, Zhu Nai, who was leading the way, suddenly lost her balance and stepped on the soles of her feet. "Damn it, my attention was focused on this kid." Zhu Nai smiled bitterly in her heart. She knew that she was going to fall. Her attention was focused on Dustless. A moment of carelessness was destined to be a tragedy. "Be careful." Just as she was about to fall, Wu Chen caught her waist that could be said to be slender. This touch is also of the highest quality. While Zhu Nai was in a daze, Dustless touched her waist twice. The warm and cool feeling was irresistible, and then he withdrew his arm. "Ah. Thank you, Dustless." Zhu Nai quickly broke free from Dustless's right arm. Her face was red like a ripe apple, extremely cute. "I'll go up myself." "You should go rest too, Zhu Nai." After saying that, Dustless brushed past Zhu Nai. He was really tired. It was not until the next morning when school started that Dustless crawled out of bed. He did not eat dinner the night before, and only had 2 bites of breakfast in the morning. "The more I live, the more backward I get. I'm going to school again." Thinking about his ridiculous experience, Dustless was speechless. He was also someone who had experienced a few worlds. He was at least 100 years old, and now he was going back to school. It was a bit funny. After school today, don't go back first. Gather at the club, Supernatural Research Lab. Ria said she had something to do. When they approached the school gate, Junai said goodbye to Dustless and walked to their respective classes. Dustless nodded slightly. Just as he was about to walk to his class, he suddenly felt a gaze filled with resentment. Strange, I don't think I've offended anyone in this world. Why would there be someone? So it's her. His eyes flashed, and Amano-shima clenched her teeth entered his vision. Dustless laughed and ignored her. She would come to him anyway. In the brightly lit class. Why are you only here now? Class is about to start. As soon as he stepped into the classroom, under everyone's shocked gaze, Riaz grabbed Dustless and dragged Dustless to sit beside her. Sorry, I woke up late. Dustless scratched his head awkwardly and said embarrassedly. Then he remembered that his deskmate was Riaz. Chapter 1248. During class, Dustless could not help but doze off as he listened to the bird language that he could not understand. No matter when, he hated going to school. Before he transmigrated, he had the title of Bottom of the 10,000 Years. It was the same now. As he listened, he began to doze off. Did you die from dozing off in your previous life? Riaz was speechless. Looking at Dustless's sleeping face, she did not know whether to laugh or cry. Dustless, wake up. Riaz said as she poked Dustless's arm. However, Dustless was obviously in a deep sleep and did not react at all. Nilio was helpless. She reached out her white hand and poked Dustless's face again. After a while, her expression was extremely unnatural. This guy's skin is so smooth, the warm skin stunned Riaz. A hint of jealousy flashed in her beautiful eyes. She was a teenage girl, but her skin was not as good as a boy's. The soft touch had some elasticity and was very smooth. Riaz could not help but touch her own skin and compare it with Dustless's. She was shocked to find that her skin was not as good as Dustless's. It was very rough. Dustless, who was sleeping soundly, frowned. He sniffed and a fragrance entered his nostrils. He subconsciously opened his dry lips. Her slender fingers were buried in Dustless's mouth. "Aw, damn it, it hurts," Riaz said in pain. She stood up instinctively. On her fingers, the bite marks were clearly visible. "Riaz, is there something wrong?" The teacher looked at Riaz and frowned. Hearing that, Riaz was stunned. She stuttered for a long time but could not say anything. She could only clench her teeth and feel extremely embarrassed. "I accidentally bit her hand just now. Sorry." Dustless stood up and admitted, smiling embarrassedly. "Be careful in class next time. Sit down." Only then did Dustless and Riaz take their seats. Riaz blushed as she looked at Dustless's teasing face and said, "Are you a pig? You can sleep so well." No. I dreamt that when I was eating, I thought I was eating a chicken leg." Dustless teased. "Drumstick." Hearing this, Riaz looked at Dustless in surprise and said with disdain, "I didn't know you were a foodie." As if remembering something, Riaz stopped talking and quickly realized that something was wrong. Dustless dreamt that he was late for the chicken drumstick. He was obviously hinting that her finger was a chicken drumstick. Riaz's pretty face darkened. She did not expect to fall into Dustless's trap unknowingly. "I was praising you. Your hand made me taste like a chicken drumstick. TSK, you're amazing." Dustless praised sincerely, his face full of admiration. Hearing that, Riaz rolled her eyes in annoyance and glared at her fiercely, ignoring Wu Chen's existence. When school was over in the afternoon, in the supernatural research room. The dim light did not change and was very dim, but one could still vaguely make out a few silhouettes. Reyes Jimenez, Juno Himejima, Kitten, Yuto Kiba, and of course, Dustless with a sloppy face. The atmosphere was a little tense. Everyone was silent, and their expressions were serious. There were a few photos of various occasions on the table. Looking up, Dustless realized that he knew him too. Hyuto Issei. This scumbag king is still being noticed. Maybe it's because of the so-called divine artifact in his body. Dustless pondered and looked at Rhea subconsciously. This little girl might have been observing Hyuto Issei for a long time. Let's keep an eye on him for now. Don't disturb his life, Rhea said after a while. But director, what if he's killed? But if we keep an eye on Hyuto Issei, there might be others keeping an eye on Hyuto Issei. Yuto Kiba said rationally. What he meant was that others might have their eyes on Hyuto Issei as well. This blonde girl is quite smart. Dustless looked at Yuto Kiba in surprise. Just as Yuto Kiba said, Amano Shima of the fallen angel probably also noticed Hyuto Issei. Not only Hyuto Issei, but even Dustless himself was her target. Isn't it better if he's killed? Then he can become someone else's dependent. Plus, some people need to die once to understand some things. A cold voice broke the tense atmosphere. Looking over, it was Dustless. Hearing this, a cold smile appeared on Reyes's face as she nodded. You have a point. Time passed quickly. When it was close to evening, it was time for school to end. The students of Kumo Academy all went home. Dustless was no exception. However, this time, he was not with Junai. Instead, he stood alone. I'm standing at the school gate. If you can't see me, then your eyes are really blind. Wuchen muttered to himself, saying inexplicable words. At the same time, a girl noticed Dustless's presence. Her face lit up and she quickly ran over. Dustless, are you waiting for me? Amano Shima asked expectantly. She had two cute dimples on her face. Of course I'm waiting for you. Wuchen said with a smile, the corners of his mouth raised high. Shima, this time no one will disturb us. We can continue the unfinished activity from last time. Hearing this, Amano Shima's eyelids twitched. Her eyes were filled with killing intent. However, she still nodded stiffly. I'll accept all your orders. Hee hee. I'm going to kill you this time. Dustless laughed coldly. Chapter 1249. Looking at the forced smile on the girl's face, Dustless's heart was as cold as a stone. He had no sympathy for her. If Shima Amano didn't approach him, he wouldn't have asked for a snub. Since she wanted to scheme against Dustless, then sorry, if people don't offend me, I won't offend them. If people offend me, I'll pay them back 100 times. This was Dustless's principle. Let's go, Shima-chan. Dustless smiled and pulled Shima Amano away after blowing a breath of hot air beside her ear. While pulling Shima Amano away, Dustless's fingers didn't stay idle. He carefully felt her warm and cool skin. It was like a beautiful jade. It was very comfortable to touch and there wasn't a single flaw. It made him unable to put it down. Dustless felt more and more that he should take this seductress as his own. This guy, I'll just find a place where there's no one and kill him. He's just a nuisance to me. Shima Amano had a beautiful smile on her face but she was cursing in her heart. In just 2 days, she had almost become Dustless's private property and was being exploited in various ways. Then, Dustless, where are we going? Shima Amano's face was red as she nervously pinched the corner of her clothes. Are we going to get a room? When she said those words, Shima Amano wanted to slap herself. Looking at Dustless's smiling face, she felt like punching him. He was even more disgusting than an enemy demon. Ha! Dustless was stunned. He stared at Shima Amano in a daze. After observing her for more than 10 seconds, he sighed softly. Get a room, my ass. She probably wants to test me. If there's the so-called magical thing in my body, she'll kill me. If there's nothing, she'll kill me. Dustless sneered as he caught the hidden killing intent in the corner of Shima Amano's eyes. He rolled his eyes and secretly planned. If I get a room with her now, this show will definitely end early. Hee hee. I can't do that. I haven't had enough fun yet. Dustless shook his head and refused loudly. How can that be? Am I that kind of person? I'm angry. I'm going home. Go play by yourself. Seeing this, Amano Shima's face twitched as he looked at Dustless's back view. He cursed in his heart. You're even harder to serve than the high and mighty Demon King. Amano Shima cursed madly in her heart. She was incomparably depressed. She forcefully suppressed the surging killing intent in her heart. After stomping her feet, she still resolutely chased after him. She only wanted to find a suitable place to check if there were any divine artifacts. If there weren't any, she would kill him. Now that Dustless was so uncooperative, Amano Shima could only continue to play along with him, tolerating Dustless in all aspects. In other words, she still had to continue being a maid. Dustless, I think you misunderstood me. Amano Shima, who was being toyed with, had no choice but to continue her act. Her eyes were already filled with tears as she explained with a sobbing tone, I meant to get a room. After stammering for a long time, Amano Shima still couldn't explain herself. Compared to Dustless, who was good at flirting, she really wasn't good in this aspect. I'm going to take a bath. Amano Shima found a lame excuse and said perfunctorily. Is that so? Dustless asked suspiciously. His sharp senses detected the hatred in the depths of Amano Shima's eyes. He immediately snorted and said, I can forgive you, but you have to promise me one condition. Condition? Hearing this, Amano Shima's beautiful eyes flashed with a smear of hesitation. She was extremely wary of Dustless. Can we talk about the condition in the future? Then I'll go home. Goodbye. Without giving Amano Shima a chance to speak, Dustless turned around and left. Say it. Amano Shima was helpless. Facing Dustless, who didn't yield to force or persuasion, she naturally admitted defeat. You will definitely be able to help me. Dustless leaned towards Amano Shima's ear and said his condition. It was fine if he didn't say it. After hearing it, Amano Shima nearly fainted from anger. Impossible, I cannot accept your condition. That kind of thing is too embarrassing. We are still young, how can we do something that goes against our morals? Amano Shima persuaded with a sobbing tone. Her tears were like pear blossoms under the moon, causing one to feel pity for her. She even changed from her previous bashfulness and took the initiative to rub her warm face against Dustless. However, Dustless didn't appreciate it and was like a rock. Not only that, he even started to hum a little tune. This fellow is simply a living beast. Is he even human? I am crying so hard, but he doesn't even have any reaction. Amano Shima continued to cry, but she was already cursing Dustless in her heart. This bastard's condition was too shameless. You said that we are still young. How are we young? Is yours young or mine young? Dustless rubbed his head and pretended to be ignorant as he asked. However, the corner of his mouth curled up into a smile as if his scheme succeeded. After a while, Dustless suddenly patted his head, giving others the feeling that he suddenly woke up. Phew, this fellow is finally enlightened. Seems like he can still be saved. Seeing this, Yugon Momo let out a breath of relief. She was really afraid that Dustless would shamelessly use force. However, before she could be proud for long, Dustless's following words shattered Amano-shima's hope, causing her to almost collapse. "You are complaining that my place is too small. I am so sad. In order to prove my innocence, I will take it off for you to take a look." Hearing this, Amano-shima immediately panicked. Her face turned red, and in front of everyone, she immediately stopped Dustless's action. Dustless doesn't care about his face, but she still wants it. This fellow, could it be that he is purposely acting dumb in front of me? Yugon Momo's face was filled with suspicion. She instinctively felt that Dustless was doing it on purpose. Chapter 1250. Dustless's shamelessness and treachery refreshed Amano-shima's understanding. Originally, when she saw his disgusted expression, she thought that although Dustless was despicable, he was still somewhat reliable. However, it seemed that she was too naive. It was a huge mistake. "You can't take off your clothes." Amano-shima's attitude was firm, there was no room for negotiation. Her face was as thin as paper, she wasn't like Dustless. "That means, you're going to agree to my condition." Dustless nodded his head firmly and smiled. "This is one of the necessary lessons to become my girlfriend." Humph. Seeing that, Amano-shima snorted in her heart. Dustless's shameless condition was to use her little mouth to do those immoral things. This was obviously more serious than getting a hotel room. "I can't do that." After thinking for a while, Amano-shima thought, "This guy really thinks that I'll listen to everything he says. He's just like a kid who hasn't grown up yet." Just at this moment, Amano-shima's eyes flashed with a hint of light. The words that were about to come out of her mouth were taken back. "That's not right. Isn't this the chance that I've been looking for?" Amano-shima's face flashed with a hint of cunning. She pursed her lips and changed her mind. She smiled and said, "All right, I'll do my best to let you float to the clouds. When you fall in the end, don't fall to your death." Amano-shima kept her smile and added another sentence in her heart. She had been looking for a chance to be alone with Dustless. Getting a hotel room now was the best time. Dustless wanted to take advantage of her, so she could use this chance to ask if there was any divine weapon. If there wasn't, Amano-shima swore that she would let Dustless experience the cruelest way to die in the world. Hee. Let's go. Dustless winked at Amano-shima and smiled. However, maybe it was God who wanted to destroy Dustless's good thing. The few places that they opened were all full. Until dusk, the two of them still hadn't found a suitable place. This is an unlucky year. Dustless sat on a bench in the park and looked up at the sky. He said angrily, "There are so many brothel patrons these days, that's really disappointing." Amano-shima said. At the same time, she noticed that there was no one around. Her cold eyes approached Dustless. She had already decided to kill Dustless here. It didn't matter if she had a divine artifact or not. This bastard was simply too good at tormenting people. Amano-shima even felt that if this continued, she would be driven crazy. "I really had a good time today." Amano-shima also sat on the bench and pretended to be gentle as she leaned on Dustless's body. She gently rubbed Dustless's arm with one hand while she took out a shining sharp weapon with the other hand. Therefore, in order to commemorate these few days. "So. Please die." Finishing her words, Amano-shima stabbed towards Dustless's chest. Her method was extremely ruthless and contained boundless hatred. However, she did not go for the kill. She still wanted to torture Dustless to get back the interest. Poochie. Blood splattered everywhere. A hole was immediately pierced through Dustless's abdomen. It was badly mutilated and looked extremely frightening. One could even vaguely see all kinds of organs inside. Dustless's face also immediately became extremely pale. Damned brat, you're done for. Amano Shima laughed happily. She was very sinister and frightening. Her dancing appearance made her abnormally terrified. Seeing that you have worked so hard, I will accompany you to play. Dustless, who was originally planning to heal the wound, stopped. He pretended to be in pain and said, I have not treated you badly. Why are you so cruel? Not treated me badly. Hearing this, Amano Shima almost fell down. These few days, she was completely like an animal being ordered around by Dustless. This bastard was now shamelessly saying that he had not treated her badly. Cough. Cough. Please let me go. Dustless's tone was incomparably weak. It was as if he was begging for mercy. Actually, he was looking forward to what would happen next. He wanted to see how this fallen angel was going to show her other side of charm. I will definitely not let you die so easily. I will let you live a life that is worse than death. Also, looking at your useless appearance, you don't even have a divine equipment. Amano Shima curled her lips and said in disdain. Staring at this extremely annoying little face, Amano Shima's flame index soared. Her Chuan was already snatched away by Dustless. Killing him casually would be too much of a loss. Brat, aren't you very lustful? Thinking about Dustless's character, Amano Shima's exquisite little face had an evil smile. Hearing this, Dustless frowned. Looking at Amano Shima's sickly smile, he suddenly felt that there was something wrong with this woman's head. She might be able to think of all kinds of crazy ideas. Originally, I wanted to play house with you. However, the opponent is actually a pervert. Looks like I should just forget about it. Dustless's mood was waning. Ignoring the wounds on his body, he had already stood up. Amano Shima was startled. Veins popped out on her forehead. Without a doubt, the pervert that Dustless was talking about was her. She turned her gaze. When she looked at Dustless with a gaze as sharp as a knife, the wounds on his body had already healed. The mangled wounds were no longer there. What replaced them was bright and clean skin. The playful expression in her eyes also disappeared. Dustless's expression gradually turned cold. The cold light in his eyes directly affected the changes in the surrounding air. A suffocating pressure filled the air. Since I have nothing to do, I wanted to play with you. However, since you have already destroyed the rules of the game, there is no need for me to continue to abide by them. After saying that, the light on Dustless's right arm floated. The golden Kusanagi sword condensed and formed. Chapter 1251. Amano Shima felt that all the secrets in her life were exposed under Dustless's eyes. Her entire body was seen through, even the most secretive part of her body was no exception. What kind of eyes are those? Sensing the abnormality in Dustless's eyes, Amano Shima's soul felt as if it was struck by lightning. She retreated unconsciously. However, Amano Shima stopped her footsteps very quickly. Those two pitch-black eyes were like the eyes of God that occupied the top of her head. No matter if she ran to the end of the world or to the end of the world, it seemed that as long as Dustless thought about it, she would immediately perish. Damn it. My brain must have been damaged by this fella for the past 2 days. Why would I have such an illusion? He is not a god. Amano Shima shook her head vigorously. She treated the thought just now as an illusion. The person in front of her was just a good-looking man who liked to tease others. At the same time, he was also a lecherous man. You still want to struggle. It seems like you are not ready. Amano Shima's hand was glowing. A light spear was held in her hand. How ignorant is this little girl these days? Dustless was too lazy to argue with her. As the saying goes, if you are serious, you will lose. There was no need to be angry with a little girl. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. A gust of wind suddenly came from the front. Dustless raised his eyebrows. Before he had the time to take a look, an ice-cold strong light suddenly pierced towards him. Go to hell. Her strong body was filled with an indescribable divine light. Her attack was ruthless and merciless as she pierced towards Dustless. TSK, TSK. Do you hate me so much? Do you have to destroy my face? Dustless said helplessly. He then waved the Kusanagi sword in his hand. Golden ripples splashed in midair. The light spear that was coming towards him immediately had an unavoidable change. Poochie. The light pierced through the spear and split it into two easily. Dustless's casual look gave people the feeling that he was having a meal. This, Amano Shima was dumbfounded. He said this 3 times in a row. His pupils dilated, and he was so shocked that he was speechless. Swish. Swish. Facing the violent hurricane, Amano Shima floated in the air, his 2 black wings flapping vigorously. Does this guy really have some kind of powerful divine artifact in his body? Amano Shima cried out in alarm. Her intestines were green with regret. Moreover, judging from Dustless's current fighting strength, he was already able to completely control the divine artifact in his body. I have to kill him, or I'll be finished. The expression in Shima Amano's eyes changed rapidly, and he sentenced Dustless in his heart. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Her jade-like hand shook, and the broken light spear on the ground began to vibrate. Then, under Amano Shima's control, it flew back and healed itself. Looking at the calm Dustless, his bottomless strength not only didn't make Shima Amano stop, but instead aroused her savage nature. Swish. Swish. This time, the number of spears of light that were descending had increased dramatically, causing Shima Amano's anger to rise. Boring. Seeing this, Dustless's mind was already waning. He released a repulsive force from his body and knocked away all the spears of light. Shinra Tensei. The repulsive force formed a perfect defense circle that resisted everything. This kind of insignificant attack was naturally not affected at all. Bang, bang, bang. The spears of light that wanted to punch a hole in Dustless were all bounced away by the absolute defense and fell to the ground powerlessly. I'll just retreat. Shima Amano, who realized the gap between them, was helpless. She flapped her wings even faster. Since she couldn't win, she would only be humiliating herself if she stayed, so she might as well run. Did I say you can leave? When Shima Amano flapped her wings and left, Dustless's cold voice sounded. He stared at Shima Amano and circled her. You can leave, but at least leave something behind. Humph. Arrogant. Shima Amano's beautiful eyes were hazy. She came here full of confidence, but in the end, she had to run away pathetically. Her heart was already bursting with anger. Now, Dustless ignited the fire in her heart again. She screamed, so what if I don't come down? If you can fly to the sky and catch me, you can take anything from me. As soon as she finished speaking, Shima Amano suddenly felt that her body was much lighter. Just when she was about to speak, her throat felt like it was blocked by someone. It was hard for her to speak. Shima Amano, who realized that something was wrong, quickly widened her eyes. Her beautiful eyes instantly reflected Dustless's face. She saw Dustless's right arm locking Shima Amano's throat. Like a rabbit, he simply grabbed her in the air. Let go of me. Shima Amano's mind went cold for a few seconds. She struggled with all her might and shook her entire body. But what made Shima Amano collapse was that Dustless wasn't moved at all. He was like a towering mountain. Her weak strength wasn't enough to move him at all. Dustless maintained his calm. After staring at Shima Amano's flushed face for a long time, he said softly, "The game is over." "Not yet." Shima Amano's eyes flashed with a trace of cunning. Her two wings were like a huge hand that smashed over with a silver spear. Light spear. Looking at the incoming spear, Dustless praised, "It's good to be able to prepare for a rainy day. Unfortunately, you're still too weak." At such a close distance, Dustless didn't even dodge. When the spear tip was about to destroy his eyes, it stopped. "Don't play this kind of child's game in the future. You've already grown up." Dustless lectured as he easily caught the light spear. "TSK, you're now my trophy. You said that I can take anything from you if I catch you. Then, I won't be polite." Chapter 1252. Amano Shima's face turned black. She was defeated by Dustless's overwhelming strength. She felt extremely aggrieved. Both of them were from two different dimensions. Especially Dustless's words just now, it made her even more fearful. She already had someone she liked. If she was forced by Dustless, Amano Shima's body trembled when she thought of this. Her face was filled with fear and lingering fear. She was already in despair, but when she thought of the seriousness of the matter, she started to resist again. Light spear. Silver light flickered between his hands, and a slender long spear instantly condensed and took shape. Whoosh! Gritting her teeth, Amano Shima used all her strength to control the light spear and threw it out. Clang! 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 The delusion of flipping the cards was beautiful, but the reality was extremely cruel. Facing Dustless's absolute strength, Amano Shima had no strength to resist at all. Her attack was like cotton and had no effect on Dustless. The scene was exactly the same as before. The light spear was caught by Silver Sky. Caw! 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 In the end, with a little bit of strength, the sturdy light spear turned into broken glass and scattered with the wind like snowflakes. Kiki. From today onwards, you are my slave. Oh, no. From today onwards, you are my servant. Dustless smiled and changed his words. He stared at Amano Shima's voluptuous body without restraint. "I already have someone I like. Even if you can get my body, you can forget about getting my heart. I advise you to, who wants your heart? Don't be too self-righteous." Dustless curled his lips in disdain and sneered, "I am not interested in your broken heart. Coincidentally, I am only interested in your body. As for your heart, it is good that it is broken." Hearing this, the veins on Amano Shima's forehead popped out. Her killing intent was everywhere. Her endless grievances seemed to have touched the heavens. In an instant, the heavens seemed to be standing on Amano Shima's side. Whoosh! Whoosh! Her wings flapped lightly, and a few light spears rolled out from her back. "Disappear." Amano Shima gritted his teeth and said. Soon after, numerous spears rained down like a torrential rain. "This fellow. If I don't teach her a lesson, she'll really think that I'm a gentleman who cares about women." After being continuously provoked, Dustless gradually became angry. He didn't know when to advance or retreat, and he knew when to stop. Everything had a bottom line. Shinra Tensei. Bang bang bang. The repulsive force surged and once again easily deflected the attacking radiance. Dustless's eyes flickered with destructive radiance. Just as he was planning to ruthlessly destroy Amano Shima, a sudden change occurred. Poochie! An unexpected sound of a body being cut into pieces suddenly rang out. Amano Shima and Dustless were both stunned, and their gazes looked over at the same time. It would have been better if they didn't look. Once they did, Dustless and Amano Shima were petrified. F***ck, what's going on? I didn't do it on purpose, Brother Ching. Looking over, a young man's abdomen was pierced with a light spear, and he was killed mercilessly on the spot. Even Dustless, who had excellent vision, couldn't see the destroyed internal organs. And the most ridiculous thing was that this person was actually Hada Issei. It can't be so coincidental. Dustless was sweating profusely, and he couldn't help but feel speechless. He's actually dead, Amano Shima said in a daze. Hada Issei was also one of the people she had to pay attention to. Look, it's all your fault. You actually killed my classmate. Dustless shamelessly poured dirty water on Amano Shima and stayed out of it. I killed him. Hearing this, Amano Shima was furious. Her beautiful eyes were burning with flames, and her breathing became abnormally heavy. If it wasn't for the difference in strength, she really wanted to bite Dustless to death. This guy was lying through his teeth. So what if I killed him? He's just a piece of trash that isn't worth mentioning. Amano Shima snorted and didn't care at all. Although the main culprit who killed Hada Issei was Dustless, the light spear that pierced through his abdomen was made by Amano Shima. It's good that you admit it. Hearing this, Dustless smiled mysteriously and suddenly let go of Amano Shima's hand. Good chance. Amano Shima's hidden strength was completely unleashed. She broke free from Dustless's grasp and flew towards the sky. Run for your life. Glancing at the disappearing figure, Dustless didn't chase after her. He still needed Amano Shima to be the scapegoat. Finally here. Looking at the ground, a fluorescent light appeared on the ground. It was a special magic circle, and two figures came out from it. Yo, Riaz, Junai. Dustless raised his hand and smiled. Pointing at Hada Issei who was lying in a pool of blood, he said painfully, Sorry, Director, I'm useless. Although I defeated the culprit who attacked Hada Issei, I couldn't catch her. In the end, Issei still. Sigh, it's all my fault. The person who killed him is a fallen angel, called Amano Shima. It's not your fault. Seeing Dustless admitting his mistake, Ria smiled and waved her hand. It happened so suddenly that it was unavoidable. Plus, it's just a small matter. You even managed to find out about the enemy. This is still a contribution, so you need to be rewarded. Riaz's smile was like a flower. Her bell-like smile was very pleasant to listen to. It was her principle to reward those who contributed. Dustless's heart twitched when he heard this. He was thinking about the reward that Riaz mentioned, but the words that were on the tip of his tongue came back to him. He would be an idiot if he didn't take advantage of the situation. Looking at the dead Hada Issei on the ground, Dustless secretly gave himself a thumbs up. I'm helping you again. In the future, you will be able to control the divine equipment in your body. You should thank me. Chapter 1253. Dustless naturally didn't feel guilty. Maybe it was because he had done a lot of bad things, but Dustless could face something as trivial as going against his conscience. Reward? What kind of reward? Dustless couldn't help but stare at Riaz's voluptuous body. He suddenly remembered one of her special habits, and a strange smile appeared on his face. Director, at this moment, two concerned voices were heard. So it's them. Dustless's brain was working at full capacity when he saw Kibiyuto and Kitten. Director, this Hyuta Kazunari is too dangerous. Why don't we let him become someone else's dependent? Dustless suggested with a chuckle. Makes sense. Zhu Naihao was on the same side as Dustless, and he also supported this suggestion. Riaz, Hyuta Issei's reputation is indeed bad, so it's necessary to take proper precautions. We all know what kind of person he is. Your habit of sleeping in the nude and wearing revealing clothing needs to be changed. That's right, Zhu Naihao is right. Dustless nodded and looked at Zhu Naihao's serious face. He secretly gave him a thumbs up. This was exactly what he wanted. Kyuta Kazunari should just die. This. No problem, I'll remember. A look of approval flashed across Ria's face. She then nodded silently, agreeing with Wu Qin and Zhu Nai's thoughts. Oh right, Dustless's eyes flashed with a cunning look, and he said, Rias, Kyuta Kazunari is known as the gourmet devil. He is a complete pervert. Rias frowned and looked at Dustless suspiciously. She felt that there was a hidden meaning in his words. If you have something to say, just say it, Rias said. Hearing this, Dustless looked at him strangely, nodded, and said, what I mean is, let Kyuta Kazunari become someone else's dependent. It doesn't have to be a director, for example, Kiba's dependent. Dustless said with a smile as he looked at Issei in the pool of blood. If you don't mind, I'm fine with it as well. Kiba Yudo seemed to be used to being submissive. After a slight smile, he agreed. No. Ria shook her head stubbornly. Her firm and high-spirited tone made it seem like she was determined to get Hyodo Kazunari. Let him become my dependent. I will pay attention to certain details in the future. Wu-chan opened his mouth but eventually shut it. After all, Li Yasi was the department head and he had no right to interfere with other people's decisions. If he insisted on it, he would be hated by the other party. Without any hindrance, Hyodo Kazunari successfully became a reincarnated demon and Ria's kin. Time passed quickly, and it was evening in the blink of an eye. On the way home, Dustless and Zhu Nai walked side by side. Dustless, you seem to have a problem with Hyodo Kazunari. Zhu Nai broke the silence and smiled at Dustless. Her graceful figure was particularly eye-catching, especially her breathtaking curves, which made Dustless a little dazed. Are you trying to seduce me? Dustless's imagination ran wild. At the same time, he said righteously, I'm worried about your safety. After all, that guy is an Iraku mad demon. Is that so? Zhu Nai blinked her bright eyes. She was obviously suspicious, but after noticing that Dustless's expression was normal, she did not ask further. But, Dustless, you are really good to be able to defeat that fallen angel. After a while, Zhu Nai suddenly changed the topic. Just an insignificant low-level fallen angel. With his hands on his head, Dustless looked left and right. He was bored. Insignificant. Zhu Nai heard his words and rolled her eyes at Dustless. In the end, she also laughed at herself. Different realms meant that their worldviews were different. The two talked and laughed on the way home. After a while, they slowly reached home. Dinner was still made by Zhu Nai. Dustless did not have the attribute of cooking, so everything was done by Zhu Nai. Perhaps because Zhu Nai was too tired, after dinner, she took a shower and quickly went to sleep. At night, Dustless, who was lying in bed, was quite bored. He tossed and turned and could not sleep for a long time. Through the window, he stared blankly at the stars in the sky. I'll find a chance to cripple Hyodo Kazunari. A cold murderous intent flashed in his eyes. Dustless closed his eyes again. At this time, a dark red light suddenly swept across the ground. A pattern flashed out of thin air, as red as blood. It looks like a magic circle. Squinting his eyes, Dustless instantly understood what it was, and at the same time, he also thought of who it was. That looks like Rias. Dustless lifted the blanket and looked curiously at the magic circle. But this time, he was destined to be disappointed. The person who came out of the magic circle was a silver-haired woman of great beauty. Why is she looking for me? She shouldn't have any connections. Dustless was surprised. This world was full of beauties, and the silver-haired woman in front of him was one in a million. Not only that, but she was also wearing a maid's uniform. Her perfect and delicate face was flawless. My name is Gilifia. I think we can have a serious discussion about some issues. The beautiful maid's breath was fragrant, and her seductive movements were especially enchanting. Chapter 1254. A serious question. Hearing this, Dustless was even more confused. He looked at the curvaceous Julia in confusion. Even though she was already a married woman, her beautiful face was still no different from a lively young girl. Her white skin was faintly discernible, with a hint of red in it. She had a noble and cold temperament, with the temperament of a queen. This girl, Dustless frowned, a hint of displeasure flashed in his eyes. He sensed a hint of command in Julia's tone, like the disdain of a noble toward a commoner. Dustless's heart turned cold. Sorry, I'm going to sleep. There's no need to discuss anything with you. Dustless waved his hand and asked her to leave. You, hearing this, Julia's face froze. This was the first time in her life that she was treated like this. Especially after becoming the wife of the Demon King and receiving the title of Silver-Haired Queen of Annihilation, no one dared to talk to her with such a perfunctory attitude. If you want to discuss something with me, that's fine. But as the saying goes, a guest has to follow the host's wishes. Since you're in my house, you have to follow the rules. Dustless gave a weird smile and took a step back. Your house, this is the house of Rias's kin, Himejima Jurai. You really think I don't know anything? Mercilessly exposing Dustless's lie, Julia suddenly felt that Dustless was very interesting. She then said generously, Fine, tell me your conditions. Consider it a gift from me. So straightforward. Dustless was stunned. He just said it casually and didn't have any other intentions. Tell me why you're here. You owe me a favor. No problem. Julia nodded elegantly and went straight to the point. Why did you purposely let that fallen angel go? I was just passing by, and I saw everything clearly. You accidentally killed Issei Hiro, and after that, you hid it from Rias and lied that Issei Amano was the one who killed Issei Hiro. What is your goal? Towards the end, Gilifia's tone took a sharp turn and became much colder. Dustless could even feel the cold air around him. So you're here to condemn me. Hearing this, Dustless's eyes flashed with a trace of disappointment. He then lay on the bed and sighed. Do you really want to hear the truth? Of course. After frowning, Gilifia nodded firmly. Issei Hyuga is an otaku. How can my lovely department head be tarnished by those wretched eyes? It was only right to kill him. However, the minister still took that pervert as his dependent. Dustless couldn't find a good excuse to beat around the bush. Although this reason is far-fetched, but, glancing at Dustless for a few seconds, Gilifia said, it's barely acceptable. Why did you let that fallen angel go? Remembering Dustless's strength, Gilifia continued to ask. She saw how Dustless killed Amano Shima with overwhelming strength. A pawn will always be a pawn. Killing her is pointless. However, after I let her go, Rias arrived. I think with the minister's strength, she could have caught up to her if she had chased after her, but you chose to ignore it. That means I did the right thing. Dustless still found a lame excuse. Is that so? I think you took a liking to someone else and purposely let her go. Gilifia glanced at Dustless and exposed his lie. This is a big problem. As Rias dependent, I have the right to ask. Then what do you plan to do? Dustless rubbed his chin playfully as he spoke with a teasing tone. This is a very serious question. Gilifia saw Dustless's sloppy attitude and his aggressive gaze, which made her extremely uncomfortable. She immediately emphasized, please correct your attitude. This is not a joke. Remember that you are Rias Jaimanri's dependent. You can represent, Are you joking? You're looking for trouble with me, and you want me to correct my attitude. Rudely interrupting Gilifia, Dustless did not stop laughing. Instead, he became even more arrogant. Gilifia had always been a serious person, and she always maintained a poker face in front of everyone. Hearing that, a sinister light appeared behind Gilifia, and a dense fog floated out. She instantly became like an ice queen, filled with murderous intent. This is magic power. Carefully sensing the surging energy behind Gilifia, Dustless nodded. It was indeed more powerful than Rias. Seeing that you're the sister-in-law of the minister, go back. I can let bygones be bygones this time. You're not my match, so don't humiliate yourself. Lying down on the bed again, Dustless crawled under the blanket and waved his hand, indicating that Gilifia could leave. However, this action did not earn Gilifia's gratitude. Instead, it angered her. Dustless's words clearly implied that he treated her as an insignificant character. To put it bluntly, she was a clown that could be easily destroyed. He did not care about her at all. We live in different worlds. Things that you think are impossible are as insignificant as dust in my eyes. Things that you think can only be done by the Demon King are within reach of me. I have the power to turn something rotten into something magical. Dustless said seriously. His hoarse voice was filled with magnetism. His tone was slow, and his expression was also very serious. Pfft. Gilifia could not help but laugh out loud. Dustless's serious monologue sounded like a joke in Gilifia's ears. If that's the case, why don't we have a competition? Chapter 1255. Duel. Hearing this familiar yet strange word, Dustless couldn't help but stare blankly for a moment. After roaming the various dimensions for so many years, Dustless had always stood at the peak of the heavens in every world. It wasn't that there were no challengers, but most of them were extremely powerful. A woman like Gilifia was extremely rare, perhaps even non-existent. There are always people who don't know when to stop. Dustless, who had just laid down, stood up again and stared at Gilifia for a while with a cunning glint in his eyes. You want a duel? Sure, but I don't like doing meaningless things. If you want to duel with me, at least bring out some sort of prize. Staring at Gilifia's curvaceous body, Dustless pursed his lips, not hiding the lust in his eyes. Even though Gilifia was pregnant and getting on in age, Dustless couldn't see any traces of aging in her perfect body. Everything seemed to have been sculpted by the heavens. Dustless really couldn't find any flaws. Prize? What's that? Gilifia's beautiful eyes flashed with doubt as she asked in confusion. Even so, she was already a wife and wasn't completely inexperienced. She naturally understood Dustless's undisguised gaze. You're quite bold. Don't you know who I am? Gilifia clenched her fists, the veins on her jade-white forehead pulsing. It's best if you understand, but it doesn't matter if you don't agree. Otherwise, I won't duel with you. You don't even have a gift to move me. Do you think there's a need for a boring duel? And the result is even more boring. It's a one-sided duel. Wuchen put on an appearance of a dead pig that was not afraid of boiling water. It looked like he was going to drill into the quilt again. This guy, Gilifia clenched her teeth, her expression turning uglier and uglier. Dustless's last few words, one-sided duel, hurt her dignity. No matter what, she was still the wife of the Demon King, famous throughout the world. Now, she was being looked down upon by a brat who hadn't even grown out his hair yet. Even if she wanted to laugh it off and tell herself not to get angry with a child, she was still furious at Dustless. If you can defeat me, I'll fulfill all your conditions. Gilifia, who was in a hurry to teach Dustless a lesson, said. Dustless was Rias's kin, and she could beat him half to death to teach him an unforgettable lesson. Otherwise, if he dared to take advantage of her today, he might ride on her husband's head in the future. That's what I'm waiting for. The smile on Wu Chen's face was even wider. Combined with his handsome face, it made people's hair stand on end. Even Gulifia furrowed her brows. She suddenly felt an unprecedented sense of uneasiness. She even had the misconception that Dustless was only wearing human skin. If he were to take off that disguise, he would become a peerless demon king through and through. Looks like I've been working too hard recently. How could I have such a funny illusion? He's just a brat who hasn't grown up yet. There's no need to be nervous. The one who should be afraid is this brat, not me. Gulifia consoled herself. Even so, she still couldn't let it go. The intense pressure that lingered in her heart was definitely not unfounded. It was an unfathomable power that was looking down on her, as if it could crush her with a single thought. Let's go somewhere else. This place isn't suitable for a duel. Suppressing the uneasiness in her heart, Gulifia returned to her usual cold demeanor. There's no need to leave. Let's settle it here. Dustless shook his head and refused. He really didn't have the time to go out and duel in the middle of the night. It would be better for him to have a quiet sleep. You're not going. So you're giving up. Gulifia's beautiful eyes narrowed. She immediately understood Dustless's intentions and said coldly, "It would have been fine if you were willing to admit defeat, but it's too late now. You've angered me. Even if you admit defeat, you'll have to pay a heavy price." "Ah. Is that so? Then you really are a narrow-minded woman. But you're wrong this time. I won't admit defeat, and I won't lower my head to a woman." Dustless smiled at Gulifia's indifferent tone and retorted coldly, "I don't want to go somewhere else because there's no need to." Dustless's eyes began to change. 3 jade carvings appeared in his pitch-black eye sockets. They slowly rotated and devoured Gulifia's mind. "What do you mean?" Gulifia instinctively retreated. Even when she regained her senses, she didn't know why she retreated. "You still don't understand." "Because there's no need to." The 3 Tomo Sharingan began to rotate at an even faster speed. Gulifia's restlessness became even more intense as a mysterious force invaded her mind. "You'll be eliminated instantly, so there's no need to go through so much trouble." Gulifia's mind buzzed as soon as he said that. She completely lost consciousness and fell to the ground. She could only barely retain her consciousness as she looked helplessly at the world in front of her. She felt a warm and broad body hugging her. The eye power of the 3 Tomo Sharingan can easily defeat Gulifia without the slightest effort. "Miss Gulifia, as I've said, you're out of the game in an instant. So, please keep your word and agree to all my conditions. I'm very tired right now, and I want to sleep, so my request is simple. Sleep with me immediately. Remember, like Ria's, I like to sleep naked, and the person who sleeps with me must not wear clothes either." Chapter 1256. Gulifia was dumbfounded. Her beautiful eyes were shrouded in a layer of shadow, losing their luster. Dustless's fiery eyes almost melted her, especially when she was locked in Dustless's arms, unable to move. That masculine scent made her both embarrassed and angry. "Let me go. I'm the wife of Demon King Sizax, and also Riaz's, MMM." However, before Gulifia could finish her sentence, Dustless impatiently covered her mouth with his hand. "TSK. This taste is not bad. Married women are sometimes more perfect and emotional." After a while, Dustless retracted his mouth and enjoyed it. Savoring the lingering fragrance in his mouth, the light in his eyes became even brighter. His eyes that seemed to want to devour her made Gulifia's soul tremble. She looked at Dustless in fear. She never thought that this young man who looked like he was in his teens would be so terrifying. His strength was so strong, and his personality was so strange. Someone like the Demon King would never do something so vulgar. Let me go. Aren't you afraid of the Demon King's revenge? Gulifia warned, the meatball in front of her swaying. Clearly, she was still afraid of Dustless. Demon King. What the hell is that? Ignoring Gulifia's words, Dustless's eyes seemed to have the ability to see through everything. Gulifia's body was clearly exposed under Dustless's eyes. You are to my liking. Be my wife. Oh, no, I hate your noble queen-like personality. So be my slave. Dustless changed his words with a smile. His expression looked frivolous, but his eyes never changed from staring at Gulifia. You're not the high and mighty Demon King's wife. So what? I'll make you the lowliest slave and crush your confidence. Are you crazy? Gulifia was shocked. Her expression changed drastically. She could already feel Dustless's restless hands, and she began to struggle with all her strength. Kneel. With a groan, Dustless coldly ordered and directly threw Gulifia out. Although he liked Gulifia, he wasn't interested in her who always put on a sour face. He needed to change her personality. She could change with others, but not with Dustless. In front of others, she is the saintess that everyone admires. In private, she is the one who charms the common people. Hee hee. Dustless felt a burst of excitement as he thought of this. Dream on. I won't, boom boom boom. A majestic aura swept out, and Gulifia, who was just about to stand up, was once again suppressed. She was forced to the ground by the majestic energy fluctuations in an instant, her knees touching the ground as large beads of cold sweat poured down like a rainstorm. Caw caw caw. Gulifia's clothes were torn to shreds by the brutal force, and her private parts were exposed to Dustless's gaze. Miss Gulifia, do you still have the dignity of the Demon King's wife? Squatting down, Dustless looked down at Gulifia, who was crawling on the ground, and said with a wicked smile. His sneaky eyes were frightening. Gulifia stared at Dustless in horror. Her heart, which had been calm for so many years, instantly collapsed. Bastard, what kind of monster is this guy? Is he also a Demon King? Gulifia choked with sobs, her throat moving up and down. Her mouth was filled with cold air after the shock. Suppressing an enemy with his aura alone seemed to be something that even a Demon King couldn't do. All the female creatures in this world didn't seem to care much about chastity. Although Gulifia was angry that Dustless stripped her naked, she was more concerned about whether she would be violated. Looking at him a few more times wouldn't kill her. Sooner or later, Dustless would pay the price. Perhaps that was what Gulifia thought. You're right, I am one of the new Demon Kings. How about it, are you willing to give up the darkness and join the light? Dustless suddenly changed the topic and grabbed Gulifia's chin. You really are a Demon King. Gulifia's tone clearly raised a notch. If Dustless really was a Demon King, then everything would change drastically. Yes and no. Dustless gave an ambiguous answer. Although Dustless wasn't a demon, he had reached the level of a Demon King many years ago. Let alone a Demon King, even if a group of gods came to invade, Dustless wouldn't fear them. In other words, even if this guy isn't a Demon King, he can at least fight one. Gulifia's eyes shone. She had a vague idea of Dustless's strength. Moreover, her tone had clearly changed. As expected, all creatures have to bow before absolute power. Dustless noticed the subtle change in Gulifia's tone. A sly smile flashed in his eyes. This little girl wants to rope me in. Dustless saw the change in Gulifia's eyes and could even hear her heavy breathing. He immediately understood her intentions. If a powerful being who could contend against the Demon King were to join Sigmund's faction, it would mean that his status would rise as well. TSK, you want to rope me in? Staring at Gulifia's perfect features, Dustless didn't mince his words. You can hire me, but the price is that you become my slave. Now, show me your sincerity, or I'll join Sazax's faction at any time. Chapter 1257. Gulifia's expression darkened as she looked at Dustless's frivolous smile. There was no doubt that he was being serious. Does this guy even have the demeanor of an expert? He actually haggled over such a small matter with me. He doesn't have the slightest bit of magnanimity. Moreover, his conditions are so vulgar. He is no different from an ordinary hooligan. Lying on the ground naked, Gulifia felt much more relaxed. Just now, she was pinned to the ground by Wu Chen and couldn't move. Her whole body was almost stuck to the ground. Now, she felt much more relaxed. The haze that shrouded her heart was also swept away. Her breathing was much smoother. However, she could only crawl on all fours like an animal. She tried to stand up, but the majestic pressure forced her to crawl on the ground again. This bastard is definitely doing this on purpose, definitely. Gulifia's face alternated between green and white. Despite her unwillingness, she was powerless to retort. She even had a fawning expression on her face. Only an idiot would offend a powerful demon king for some trifles for no reason. In fact, it was the same in every world. The powerful could trample on everything without any qualms. They didn't need to care about other people's feelings, just like Dustless. The weak were destined to become the bargaining chips of the powerful. Sometimes, they had to endure being slapped in the face, even if it meant breaking their teeth. Gulifia could only endure all kinds of unfair treatment because she was too weak. Paw! A crisp sound rang out. If it wasn't for Dustless's soundproof barrier, even Zhu Nai would have heard it. Gulifia suddenly felt a sharp pain in her lower body. She subconsciously looked over and saw a glaring red claw mark left behind by Dustless. The breasts that were attacked were her pride and joy. Are you going to run or not? Wu Chen asked impatiently. His tone was filled with irritation as he threatened, don't exhaust my patience. You can't bear the consequences. Take out something that can please me and I can help you unify the world. The consequences of angering me will be the opposite, just like now. Crack, crack, crack. Dustless suddenly clenched his fist. The untouchable void was like a mirror that was easily crushed by Dustless. Just what level is this guy at? Gulifia's heart was in turmoil. Her eyes were wide open. I understand. Gulifia eventually relented. She got on all fours and circled around Dustless's feet twice. She didn't have the strength to resist, and the result would be even worse. Dustless would mercilessly destroy her body and soul. Aren't you the Demon King's wife? I hate people like you who think too highly of themselves. Dustless was secretly pleased. In fact, he liked Gulifia very much. This kind of woman was very loyal and capable, but the only thing he couldn't accept was that she was too domineering and had high expectations of herself. She might only have Demon King Sazax in her eyes. Dustless didn't have absolute confidence in taking her down without destroying her confidence. The first step was to shatter her confidence and make her realize her own value. Only then would everything be solved. Stop right there. A hint of mockery flashed across Dustless's face as he teased, be more serious for me, I'm going to ride you right now. Ride me? Don't mess around. Hearing this, Gulifia's thoughts went astray. Her face turned pale, and her clothes barely covered her body as she trembled. Don't move. Do you think you can resist if I want to? Dustless mocked. Then, his body suddenly lost gravity and floated up onto Gulifia's jade-white back. Run 2 laps. Dustless looked up and said coldly. Gulifia had no choice but to use her hands and knees to slowly swim around Dustless's hut. Gulifia didn't feel any discomfort when a human suddenly appeared on her back. In fact, she didn't even feel anything. The only thing she found hard to accept was that she was naked, while a human was riding her and giving orders. Just thinking about it made her face turn red. You can't take the initiative to confess such a shameful thing. Dustless noticed Gulifia's embarrassment and only smiled without saying anything. That was to be expected. No one would be able to talk about something like that. Stop. A few minutes later, Wu Chen, who felt bored, stood up and threw a piece of clothing to Gulifia, hinting her to put it on. Now it was time to talk business. You'll be one of my maids from now on. Stay away from Sazax. If I hear anything bad about him, I'll join whoever has the worst relationship with Sazax. Revealing a hint of viciousness, Dustless threatened. Gulifia sighed lightly and finally nodded elegantly. Her words and actions always carried a noble air, but combined with her smile that was uglier than bitterness, she looked rather bitter and sad. Also, tell Rias that Hyoto Kazunari isn't a good person. Stay away from him. Alright, that's all. You can go back now. Hearing that, Gulifia's dispirited spirit was swept away, and a glimmer of hope appeared in her eyes as she came up with a plan. This guy is very powerful, and it seems like he's interested in Rias. If I can get them to marry, it'll indirectly mean I have another demon king to help me. Gulifia was no fool. She realized the stakes and hurriedly left. Chapter 1258. Some things were just like that. Since one could not fight back, one could only take it in silence. Since one could not go against the flow, one could only turn the disadvantageous situation to one's advantage. As for whether it was fair or not, Gulifia did not even think about it. Whoever had the bigger fist had the final say. That was the only law that had not changed since the beginning of time. Take and be taken, that was the most realistic portrayal of the current world. I can marry Lise off to that guy. An idea flashed through Gulifia's mind as she pursed her lips into a mesmerizing smile. As for Phoenix, I can only say that I'm sorry. Thinking of Phoenix, Gulifia could only apologize. The strong preyed on the weak, and since Dustless was more suitable, Phoenix was destined to be eliminated. The strong preyed on the weak, that was also an absolute law that would never change. It would be best if he could marry into the Gimli family. That way, everything would change. Gulifia's eyes sparkled as she suddenly felt that this was a very good deal. Compared to scum like Phoenix, Dustless was more suitable for Lise. But that guy actually dared to. Gulifia was furious when she thought about how Dustless had seen everything of her body. Especially when she was being ridden around by Dustless, she felt even more humiliated. Forget it. The strong call the shots in this world. Women are just insignificant clothes to some powerful people. If they get dirty or torn, they can change into another one anytime. No one will care. Gulifia laughed bitterly at herself as she chose to forget everything that had just happened and endure it in silence. So what if she told her husband, the current demon king Sazax Gimli? It would not be of any use. Whether or not he could beat Dustless was a problem. Moreover, Gulifia would not be able to tell him. If the truth were to be revealed, Sazax would not be able to hold his head up high. The title of being a cuckold would spread to every corner of the world, and she would be looked down on in the future. Time passed by slowly. When she realized it, it was already the next morning. Life is truly unpredictable. The young man in the uniform sighed. The young man in the school uniform sighed and looked over. It was Dustless who was yawning with a sleepy face. At this moment, he was on his way to school. He woke up a little late today. After playing horseback riding with Gulifia for half a day last night, it was inevitable that he would wake up late this morning. Seriously, you still want me to go to school? Sigh. Dustless, who was over 100 years old, didn't know whether to laugh or cry when he thought about it. Even now, he still felt like he was in the clouds. Ouch, it hurts. At this moment, a low cry of pain attracted Dustless's attention. Following the source of the sound, the person who cried out in pain was a blonde girl wearing a nun's dress. Gulp. The blonde girl was sprawled on the ground. Due to her special clothes and the way she fell, Dustless could even see Fatu's white skin. Dustless looked at the blonde girl in a daze. Her emerald green eyes were very familiar to Dustless. No wonder she looked so familiar. So it's Aisha. Wuchen came to a sudden realization. Then, he swaggered away and walked toward Aisha. Little sister. Are you okay? Dustless, who realized that something was wrong, immediately changed his words. It was very rude to call someone little sister when he didn't know them. The church. If I didn't know better, I would have thought that it was a place where scholars gathered. In fact, it's a bunch of perverts. Looking at Isha's explicit church dress, Dustless despised her in his heart. He then shook his head and looked at Isha, who was still sprawled on the ground. She was in pain, and it was very difficult for her to move. After all, she was just a simple-minded girl. Not everyone was as impenetrable as Dustless, who could stand still and let people hit him. Are you okay? Dustless took the initiative to reach out his hands to support the girl. Unexpectedly, he grabbed Aisha's snow-white wrist. His heart trembled, and ripples appeared in his calm eyes. Dustless glanced at the girl. Although she was young, her body had already begun to take shape. That delicate touch made Dustless daydream. I'm sorry. Did I disturb you? I didn't do it on purpose. Isha, who stood up, quickly bowed and apologized. She also thanked him solemnly. Thank you for helping me. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. At this moment, a gentle breeze suddenly came, and Isha's dress was suddenly blown up. The light under her dress was completely exposed to Dustless. Seeing this scene, Isha's face turned red as if it was burning. She stuttered for a long time but couldn't say anything. You're hurt. Dustless, who had sharp eyes, stared at the abrasions on Isha's palm. Then, he grabbed her right arm again, which made her even more embarrassed. I accidentally fell and hurt myself, Isha said with a red face. Just as she was about to pull her arm back and say that she was fine, she suddenly realized that Dustless was touching her restlessly. Her good impression of Dustless instantly disappeared. Why are you? What is this? It feels so cool. The anger on Isha's face dissipated. Her mind was swallowed by the temporary feeling of pleasure. She was deeply immersed in it, unable to extricate herself. There was a mysterious warm current flowing around in her body, nourishing her wounds. It was warm and comfortable as the sun. Opening her eyes wide, Isha was shocked to find that her broken wound had healed in an instant. Her clean skin was white and there were no flaws or scars. How did you do it? Isha looked at Dustless with her eyes shining brightly. She was deeply puzzled. Chapter 1259. Isha raised her voice by a few decibels. Her beautiful gem-like eyes were filled with astonishment. Her small mouth opened and closed, which made her look even more lovely and moving. Anyone who saw her could not help but want to take pity on her. Nothing to be surprised about, it's just a trick. Dustless smiled calmly, his tone revealing the meaning of disdain. He could turn back time, bring people back to life, and create or destroy worlds in the blink of an eye. It was even easier to cure something as trivial as that. Perhaps because it was her first time meeting a stranger, Isha was especially nervous. She clenched the corner of her shirt, her palms sweaty, and could not finish her sentence. Seeing this, Dustless frowned slightly. He looked at her panicked eyes and guessed, "You're not lost, are you?" Hearing this, Aisha's little face turned red from the expanding hydrogen gas in the sky. That's my first time in this city, so I don't know the way." The cute girl clenched her fists as she mustered her courage. "Don't worry about it. When I first came here, I was also very confused." Dustless replied faintly, and then invited her, "Looking at your attire, you should be from the church, right? I happen to be familiar with the place, so I can take you there." "Thank you so much." Isha was overjoyed, and quickly bowed to Dustless to thank him. She then grabbed the corner of his shirt, as if she was afraid that Dustless would leave. "Let's go." Seeing this, Dustless smiled and turned to leave. As for the class, he forgot about it. The sky was getting hotter and hotter, and it was almost noon. "Gilifia. What a rare guest. What do you want from me?" A young woman in maid attire stood in front of the paranormal research department, like a shining treasure, attracting everyone's attention. Of course, there were not many people in the empty room. There was only Junai, Riaz, and Gilifia. "Riaz, is Hyoto Kazunari your new family member? I hope you stay away from her in the future." It was rare for Gilifia to use a commanding tone, and she was afraid that Riaz would think that she was joking. "This is an order from your father and brother." Riaz, who had the cup of coffee in front of her mouth, paused and stared at Gilifia's face. "May I ask why?" she asked. "Of course you can, but I have no right to answer you." "Don't think I'm joking," Gilifia warned, rudely dashing Riaz's hopes. "If I find out that you're doing something beyond my tolerance, I'll personally destroy Issei Hyuga, even if he has unlimited potential." Hearing that, Riaz could not help but get angry. After complaining in her heart for a while, she had no choice but to obey. After all, this was the will of her father and brother. One more thing, Gilifia, who was about to leave, turned around gracefully. A strange look flashed across her beautiful face as she said softly, "Your marriage with Phoenix might change in the future." With that, Gilifia's body began to surge with mana as a magic circle formed beneath her feet. It looked like she was about to leave. "Wait, Gilifia, there's one more thing I have to ask." Like a gust of wind, Riaz appeared behind Gilifia out of nowhere and asked in a low voice, "This is my personal matter, I have the right to ask, don't I? Who is so powerful that they can forcefully change this marriage?" "That Phoenix family is one of the most powerful families in the world. You wanted me to marry Phoenix because you saw the power of his family. Now that you're abandoning Phoenix, are you saying that you found someone even more powerful than him?" Riaz's voice was filled with shock. To be able to force the Phoenix family to back down, this person must be a super force. "You've misunderstood. I just think that you're not suitable for him, and I haven't informed the Phoenix family yet. This is all one-sided. I'm just informing you in advance." Gilifia explained plainly, keeping Riaz in suspense. "Goodbye, Riaz." With that, Gilifia dived into the magic circle and disappeared as if she was eaten by something. "What do you think, Junai? Why are there so many weird and unusual things happening lately?" Riaz, who was still in shock, sat on the sofa, panting so hard that her chest was bouncing. "There have been too many weird things happening lately, and I don't know why. I didn't expect your father and brother to reject this marriage. I don't know why, but it's not a bad thing for you." Junai smiled seductively as she ran her fingers through her hair. Her every move was deadly seductive, and it was not an exaggeration to describe her as a deadly poison. "No, I know my father and brother better than you." Riaz shook her head resolutely, her eyes filled with unconcealable shock. Rather than saying it's voluntary, it's more like they're forced. When she said that, Rias's internal organs were throbbing in shock. What kind of super monster was it that made her brother and her stubborn father change their minds? It was as laughable as a dream. Her father and brothers were all famous figures in the world, and her brother was even more powerful. Syzax was the Demon King, admired by countless people. Now that he had backed down, she found it strange. Chapter 1260. At the same time, in another direction, Dustless and Isha were chatting happily, laughing and chatting non-stop. Dustless never felt that he had other attributes other than fighting, killing, and scheming, picking up girls. On the road, the two walked together. Dustless accompanied her to buy a lot of things, including daily necessities. Seems like we're here. Looking up at the unique building in the distance, it looked majestic and holy under the sun. But the darkness under the light was unreadable. Thank you. Isha bowed again and thanked him seriously, as if bowing had become a habit for her. No need to mind, I'm bored anyway, it's just to pass the time. Dustless smiled, giving off a refreshing feeling. Goodbye. Her face flushed red, and she fled at the sight of him. Whoosh! Her footsteps suddenly stopped, a thought flashed through Isha's mind. She turned around and asked, "So, we're friends from now on?" Yes. Dustless nodded lightly and thought to himself, this is only temporary, our relationship in the future will be far more than just friends. As soon as she finished speaking, Isha skipped away, looking quite happy. After breaking up with Isha, Dustless did not rush to school, he was never interested in this kind of thing. Instead, he went straight back to the house where he lived with Zhu Nai. But unfortunately, Riaz, who came with ill intentions, had been waiting for him for a long time. Please explain why you skipped class, Dustless. In the hall, Riaz crossed her legs, hugged her arms, and dragged her proud assets up. Her tone was filled with undisguised dissatisfaction. Riaz, Dustless was speechless. He looked straight ahead and suddenly saw something he should not have seen. Don't change the topic, I want the reason. With a straight face, Riaz curled her lips and said in disdain. Actually, I wanted to say, you're exposed, Riaz. Wu Qin teased. Riaz happened to be sitting opposite him. She was wearing a short skirt, and because she was crossing her legs, Wu Qin had a good view of the depths of her white thighs. Wu Qin could see everything clearly. Black. After a long while, Wu Qin said something as if he was possessed by gods and demons. Hearing that, an awkward expression flashed across Riaz's face, and her crossed legs immediately relaxed. She naturally knew what color she was wearing today. Explain to me why. After glaring at Dustless with dissatisfaction, Riaz regained her composure. She did not mind at all, and just laughed it off. It's a long story. The reason is, after spending more than 10 minutes, Dustless told Riaz everything without hiding anything. Of course, there was no need to. Aisha. Is she from the church? A hint of disgust flashed across Riaz's eyes. She looked rather hateful. Not only her, but Jurai Himejima was also the same. Right, I have another question that I need you to help me with. I'm sorry, Riaz. Although I'm one of the students of the Supernatural Research Department, I'm not your relative. You don't seem to have the right to order me around. Dustless stuffed Riaz's mouth with one sentence, and she did not have the words to refute. This was the undeniable truth. Hee, a strange smile came out of Dustless's mouth, and he said generously, Miss Riaz, I've said it before, you can order me around if you want. But you know, no matter where it is, it's a world of benefits. You should at least give me something that can move my heart. Staring at Jurai Himejima and Riaz's naked bodies, Dustless's eyes seemed to be able to see through their clothes, and his pupils reflected their naked bodies. At this point, Rias and Jurai Himejima naturally understood what he meant. You want to take advantage of the situation. Jurai Himejima frowned and asked, her tone full of hostility. Don't say it so harshly. This is just a transaction. I'm not Rias's relative. What's wrong with asking for some compensation? Some people want to hire me at a high price, but I don't agree. Dustless said with a face full of righteousness. He did not feel that he did anything wrong, and he did not force Rias. It was up to Rias whether she agreed or not. At this moment, a warm wind blew by his ear. Dustless turned around and saw Rias with a seductive expression. What do you want as compensation? Rias lifted her finger and drew circles on Dustless's shoulder. She said frankly, what you said just now makes sense, so I agree to the compensation. Dustless was not surprised. Rias was such a flirtatious person. Even if she knew about Dustless's dirty request, she would still agree. Is that so? Squinting his eyes into a thin line, Wu Chen's extremely penetrating gaze swept back and forth. Recalling everything that happened between him and Gulifia that day, the corners of his mouth curled up even more mischievously. TSK. Forget it. It's a waste to waste this opportunity now. When I find Gulifia in the future, I'll have the two of them play a game with me. The fire in Dustless's heart was extinguished. His vision cleared up and he could see everything clearly. Rias's sister-in-law, Gulifia, was rolling around on the same bed as Rias herself. There was no more spectacular performance than this. Forget it, we're all family. There's no need to be so formal. Minister Rias, if you have any problems, just tell me. You owe me a favor. Dustless said generously. It would not be too late to take it back with interest in the future. Chapter 1261. Rias was deeply surprised. She did not expect Dustless to be so carefree. She had planned to put on a live sex scene in Zhu Nai's house, but she did not expect Dustless to be so generous. No. Rias's pretty face flashed with determination, and she rejected Dustless's offer without any regrets. You must take my chastity now. Rias's face reddened as she said resolutely. Take your chastity. Hearing that, Dustless was stunned, and repeated like a machine, his tone was unprecedentedly sluggish. Did I hear wrongly? You actually want to have sex with me? Not only Dustless, but Zhu Nai was also suspicious. Rias, have you thought it through? Zhu Nai's eyes flashed, and her eyebrows furrowed. She was also suspicious, and instinctively thought that she was toying with Dustless. Although Rias was very revealing at times, she would never be perfunctory in this kind of situation. After all, it was something that concerned a person's life. I'm sure. Meeting Dustless's gaze, Rias responded. Although it was only 3 words, it was still resolute. Hearing that, Dustless could not help but feel a surge of emotions. He exclaimed in his heart, I'm just too handsome. A beauty throwing herself at him, and wanting to go to hell with him. No car and Rias had nothing to do with him. He could only say that she was addicted to his handsomeness. Rias, you have a fiancé. If you act so recklessly, you might get into big trouble in the future. Zhu Nai frowned, and her words hinted that she wanted to stop her. So that's how it is. This little girl was trying to trick me. If I took her chastity, then on the contrary, her marriage would also fall through. At that time, the person who took her chastity would be me. Without a doubt, I would definitely be pushed to the heart of the storm. Dustless suddenly realized that this was not seducing him, but digging a hole for herself. Rias, what you're doing is indirectly harming me. I'm sorry, but I won't agree. Dustless shook his head. Even though he really wanted to have a wonderful night with Rias, he rejected her decisively. You, hearing that, Rias's voice faltered, and a flame of anger rose in her heart. She did not expect Dustless to be so ungrateful. He, Dustless smiled but did not say anything. He looked at Rias's gloomy little face, glanced at her smugly, and left. Junai, I'm a little tired today. You don't have to prepare my dinner. When Wu Chen's voice fell, he walked up the stairs. His tone was lazy and he seemed to be very tired. It's not decent at all. Bad review. As she watched Dustless leave, Rias pouted unhappily before sitting down dejectedly. Lias, you really don't like your fiancé. Junai sat beside Rias. The two of them were not only superior and subordinate, but also best friends. Of course. Who would like a stranger? That's why I'll choose Dustless. At least we know each other, Rias said with a headache, but there was no regret in her tone. At this moment, Junai suddenly grinned. Don't worry. I know Dustless very well. If he doesn't want to talk to you, you can talk to him. Junai lowered his voice, obviously with bad intentions. He glanced at the floor from the corner of his eyes. His meaning was self-evident. I'm speechless. Dustless ignored Rias, but Rias could use her passive skill to seduce Dustless. Hearing this, Rias fell silent. She lowered her head, her eyes gleaming as she carefully calculated the gains and losses. As the future heir of the Gimli family, she had a very good political brain. If I marry that kid, I'll have a lot of power in the future. With his protection, no one will dare to disobey my orders. Rias showed her unique ability to calculate all the advantages and disadvantages clearly before continuing. On the contrary, without this guy, I'll have to spend the rest of my life with an annoying stranger. That's worse than killing me. Her gem-like eyes were filled with resistance and doubt. Rias clearly did not intend to go along with her family's wishes. Junai, you're right. After a few minutes of silence, Rias chose to follow Junai's suggestion. Although Dustless was also a stranger and had a weird personality, they still understood each other. Rias did not reject Dustless. Compared to the stranger she did not even have the chance to meet, it was easier for Rias to accept Dustless. But that guy is very difficult to deal with. He's definitely the type that doesn't listen to force or persuasion. Rias was having a headache. She knew how difficult Dustless was to deal with. Normal people would want to swallow her alive when they saw her. Today, she encountered such a strange accident with Dustless. Rias, if force doesn't work, you can use force. If force doesn't work, you can just drug him. Junai showed the style of a fujoshi. That smile on her face was extremely cunning. That's not good. Rias said with a face full of cold sweat. Although Junai did not mention any drugs, the two of them had known each other for many years, and Rias was very sensitive to the teasing tone. She immediately understood what she was talking about. I don't think it's bad. Junai shook her head and said with a normal expression, only when a person's brain is about to explode and her thoughts are in a mess will she speak the truth. Only then can a person's essence be seen clearly. And Rias, don't you think it's fun to tease that guy a little? Letting a person with great potential become a slave to your body, I think you've gained a lot. Chapter 1262. Hearing that, Rias's eyes lit up, like a baby who had found a fun toy. Her pupils shone with a thirsty light, and she pursed her lips instinctively, showing excitement on her face. Without a doubt, Dustless was very strong. She didn't know exactly how strong he was. She only had a vague idea of how strong he was. His strength was boundless and beyond her knowledge. To be able to conquer such a strong man and make him infatuated with you. Rias, don't you think it's very interesting? Junai instigated. It was not hard to tell from Tintin's rosy lips that she was also interested. The biggest difference between men and women was that men could control the world with their own strength and destroy everything, while women only needed to conquer the strongest man to get everything. Interesting. Riaz nodded noncommittally. She then glanced at the stairs leading upstairs, and a strange look flashed in her eyes. The bright moonlight hung high in the sky. It was particularly eye-catching and beautiful. Riaz, that little woman is very cunning. She wants to use me to attract firepower. She's too naive. The more anxious you are, the more I will drag it out. On the soft bed, Dustless said with his head resting on his hands. Although Dustless was also quite greedy for Riaz's beauty, there was nothing wrong with making her lose her appetite. And he had an even crazier idea. Hee. If one day, Riaz and her sister-in-law Gulifia are willing to be together, thinking of this, Dustless's evil smile became even wider. That kind of feeling, I'm afraid any man would want to experience it. Although Dustless's strength has reached the realm of perfection, he has never experienced the feeling of being a god. Of course, he was obsessed and fantasized. After fantasizing for a while, Dustless quickly fell asleep. After accompanying Aisha for a while, he also felt tired. Creak, creak. Around midnight, there was the sound of the stairs creaking. Dustless's closed eyes opened instantly. His observation hockey spread out and immediately understood the identity of the visitor. This looks like Riaz. What is she doing here in the middle of the night? Anne. He's not even wearing any clothes. Now Dustless's observation hockey has reached its peak. It is no exaggeration to say that he can clearly feel the existence of the other party from tens of kilometers away. He could even discern the other party's clothes and heartbeat. That's interesting. Let's see what tricks you have up your sleeves today. Dustless closed his eyes and pretended to be asleep, quietly anticipating Riaz's magnificent performance. Dong dong dong. In the end, Dustless could feel the approaching footsteps, and it was not hard to tell that Riaz was close by. Creak. The door was gently pushed open, and a ray of dim light shone in. At the same time, there was a unique fragrance. What is that smell? Not bad. As the elegant fragrance entered his nose, Dustless nodded without a trace and sighed inwardly. He opened his eyes uncontrollably, wanting to see what Riaz brought to share with him. Teapot. There were also 2 cups. This guy wouldn't come to drink tea with me in the middle of the night, would he? So elegant. Dustless thought speechlessly. He glanced at Riaz again. She was dressed the same as when Dustless used his observation hockey. She was completely naked. Forget it, continue to pretend to be asleep. After not understanding Riaz's intentions, Dustless just laughed it off. In the face of absolute strength, all schemes and tricks were a joke. You're so hard to please. She leaned close to Dustless's bed and looked down at the handsome sleeping face. The perfect face was like the bright moon hanging high in the sky, untouchable. Out of curiosity, Riaz could not help but scratch Dustless's little face. Riaz was surprised and pinched Dustless harder. After making sure she did not pinch wrongly, she said in surprise, "This guy isn't a woman, is he?" Dustless's smooth skin and messy black hair had an indescribable charm to it. What surprised Riaz the most was that Dustless's body had a unique body fragrance. Riaz could not help but lay down, and her delicate white nose came close to Dustless and sniffed twice. This guy, don't tell me, he's a female classmate. After staring at Dustless for a while, Riaz complained in her heart. If she ignored his chest and did not look at his hair, Dustless would definitely have a gorgeous transformation. Ambushing me in the middle of the night, it shouldn't be that boring. Dustless was very depressed. Even with his eyes closed, through the perception of observation hockey, Dustless could sense that Riaz was close by and was looking at him in a daze. Because she was too close, Dustless could even feel the heat. He could feel the hot air blowing on his face. Why is this guy looking for me? Dustless thought in confusion. After realizing that Riaz did not have any ill intentions, he let down his guard and began to think about her motives. Gulp. At this moment, Dustless suddenly felt a stream of heat flowing into the corner of his mouth. It was sweet, it was the water in Riaz's teapot. It tasted good. Dustless also inhaled it. After a few minutes, after an unprecedented heat appeared in his heart, Dustless was stunned. This feeling is not right. Why do I feel hot for no reason? Could this be an aphrodisiac? You're tuning in to the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.